Okay, so if you guys want to follow along either just on the screen or if you want to pull it up on your computer too, that's fine. We're going to go to the second tab in our navigation panel, tutor training or training materials for tutors. And then we're going to be looking at the PowerPoint presentation that's here on the screen. You can just click through the slides here in SharePoint, or you can expand it out and open it like I'm going to do.
Basically the same thing we just kind of already gone over, but again, the handbook is where everything is located, and you want to make sure that you go through it. The new tutors have gotten instructions to go ahead and do it and take the quiz. Not to put you on the spot, but have you done the quiz yet? Okay, I just haven't checked it today. So the quiz is to get you through the whole thing to make sure you knew where things were located and what the forms were. And I will apologize in advance to you who are new that we're talking a lot about the structure of how we do our business first, and the actual tutoring part is kind of, we're not doing as much of that today. We're doing mostly the business parts of what we have to keep track of. So anyway, you just want to be sure that you go through it and you know where everything is located.
Okay.
So we did just talk about that. So right now, this time is the best time.
Yep.
How many of you have done your block schedules already? Nobody has? Okay, so then go into the SharePoint and then go into the left-hand side tab where it says.
You can either click on documents or you can just scroll down on the home page to the document section. And then you're going to click on the folder that says schedules and timesheets. And once that's open, there's an Excel sheet that's called S Schedules. If you click on that, it will open the shared Excel sheet. And again, we each have a tab along the bottom, so make sure that you're on your tab. And then you're just going to fill in what your projected hours are. And if you've enrolled in courses either here or at another campus, you can fill in the block times for when you're going to be in your own classes. So you can see here, it doesn't really show up on the screen too well, but I have stuff color coordinated for when I'm going to be doing hours for groups or in one-on-one, when I'm going to do my prep time for the classes I'm embedded in, and then all of my personal classes are in a different color. So you can do it however you like. At the bottom of the Excel sheet, you'll see your tentative hour breakdowns where you can put how many hours you expect to be doing each part of your job, whether it's your embedded group or one-on-ones. These kind of have to be up in the air for right now. And then your total hours. And then for Dr. B to see the classes that you're enrolled in and the times they are, you can type those in here along with the units you are taking at the bottom. Minutes of us just sitting here. Okay, so like Dr. B mentioned, for those of us who are graduated and at a different campus, if you come to the SharePoint home page under documents, there's a folder that says proof of enrollment. This is where you need to drop in either your official or unofficial or registration proof of units and registration. And again, it just needs to have your name, your ID number, the number of units you're taking, and the school's letterhead or address or something official. We had some students who were concerned about privacy issues last semester. So you can do one of two things. You can download your proof of enrollment to a PDF, and then you can redact any personal information that you don't want to be put on SharePoint and save that PDF and then upload it. So anything you don't want seen can be blacked out. Or you can let me know and you can send me the document because I can lock it to where only Dr. B can see it once it's in the SharePoint folder. So it's up to you which version you want to do. Or if you're like me and you really don't care who sees what you've got going on, you can just upload it however you want it. Okay. So everyone's pretty much working on this already, but just a few quick things. Because Dr. B is going to be using the schedule in SharePoint to populate our bookings page for all one-on-one appointments, it's super important that you keep this calendar up to date. If you have any changes in your schedule, update it immediately and then notify Dr. B that you have made the update so that she can go in and look at it and then update the bookings page. Because if you don't keep this up to date, she's not going to update bookings, and then you're not going to get appointments at the times that you're actually working. We also use this for finding coverage. So if you have an appointment or you need to take a day off or you have a conflict in your schedule, you can go on the SharePoint calendar, look at everyone's schedule and find another tutor who's working that same time. And then you can email them and CC Dr. B so that everyone knows you need coverage for that particular time. Just really quickly, again, that's on the RWC tutor calendar. And initially when you open it, it only shows you your schedule. If you need to view all of the staff schedule, you just need to click on the calendar tab in the upper left-hand corner, click on people, and then scroll down to where it says tutors. This will show you everyone's active schedule. So you can check and see if there's somebody that lines up with you. And then finally, the calendar on SharePoint should match your time clock plus hours as well as your timesheet, so that you're not working hours that aren't reflected on either of those schedules. Now we're going to talk about the bookings page. Annie, I think you're the only other one here that worked this summer, so you're the only one that's seen this. Okay, so this is the new Microsoft Bookings app that we're using. It's the student interface side. We don't have access to the actual administration side like Dr. B does, so we can only see the student facing side. I'm going to open it in Canvas. So for you to access it, all you need to do is go to our Canvas page, click on the Schedule One-on-One Appointments Here tab, and then you can read through the instructions if you want, or know that these are here and you can share them to students if they need help booking an appointment. But you're just going to scroll to the bottom of the page and then click on this big tile to access that interface. So from here, this is what the students will see when they book a one-on-one appointment with a tutor. They need to select a service. We have them broken into 60 and 30-minute Zooms and 60 and 30-minute face-to-face appointments. So they need to select a service. Then they need to select the date of the appointment that they want to book. And then they have the option to either leave it set to anyone to be booked with the next available tutor on the particular time, or they can scroll through the list of staff and select the tutor with whom they want to work. Then they need to select the time of the appointment. They'll be able to see only the appointments that are left available for that day. So if you've had students who have booked your other sessions, the next student who tries to book will only see what's left. If they decide that those times don't work, they can always go back and pick another tutor from there. Then they need to enter their information. The directions have asked that they enter their first, last, and ID number in the name line. We're trying to hopefully get everyone to do that. And then also trying to get everyone to use their SCCCD email, just so that we're able to contact them should we need to. And then their class and their instructor. So once they've filled out all of this information, they can click on book. They'll get a thank you for booking with us notification eventually. Okay. There we go. So thank you for booking with us. And then you can tell them they need to click OK to view their confirmation page. This just reiterates all of the information that they selected, their name, the type of session, the day, the time, and the tutor that they booked the appointment with. If they leave the tutor selection to anyone, it will tell them which tutor they have been placed with here on this confirmation page. They have the option to reschedule the appointment, cancel the appointment, or go back to the booking page to set up another appointment. Once a student navigates away from this page, the only way to re-access the confirmation is to go through the email that they receive from the RWC tutoring services. And this looks almost exactly like the confirmation page. It has their information, the service they selected, the tutor they're going to be working with, the day and the time. If they need to make a change, the only way to do that after leaving the confirmation page is to go through this change your appointment link that's here in the confirmation email. So part of the instructions I'm going to record on how to do this is going to explain that if they need to do that, they need to save the emails for their appointments. They also have the option to add it directly to their Outlook calendar. We have the administration side set up to where it will automatically add the event to the tutor calendars. So you will get a notification as well as a reminder, and the appointment will appear on your Outlook calendar. So you can see the appointments I booked with myself over the last few days to show this. But yeah, so you get the upcoming agenda, all of your upcoming appointments will show here because we have it set up, but the student actually needs to select whether they want it to go to their calendar or not. To view the details of the appointment from the tutor side, all you need to do is click on the event on your calendar and it will open up all of the information from the form that the student submitted. So you will be able to see their name, their ID, their email, the class that they're in, and their instructor. So if you need to contact them, you need to come into the event to get their email, because if you just respond to the confirmation email you got, it's going to go to bookings, not the student. So the only way to contact the student outside of inbox is by pulling their information from the event itself.
Does that make sense, you guys? I think that it's actually a pretty streamlined resource. It's just a matter of us getting used to it. But I think from the student-facing side, it looks really professional. And I know for me, when I get a confirmation like that, it's like, oh, that's everything I need to know. You know, and then if I do need to cancel it, there is a place right there where you can click and it will take you to cancel it. And then the student will be notified that that appointment's been canceled. It comes straight to the mailbox. And we also have it set up that they can make appointments as late in the day as 2 hours before.
Yes, there's no more instantaneous appointments. They have to book a minimum of 2 hours prior to their desired time.
Yeah, because you might not be available or you might be with somebody else. And, you know, so you just need the last minute Lucy's, we're just going to have to make that real clear when we talk to our classes as embedded tutors that this is an appointment-based system. So it's the best way we know how to serve the most people. So you just have to plan ahead.
And
here on campus and we're here and they walk in, we'll show them how to make an appointment. And if somebody isn't here and they are not currently helping somebody, then we will help them, but it's not guaranteed. The face-to-face services are going to be completely contingent on availability of tutors. Because even though you can live close by and could come in here and do your Zooms from here, you're going to be Zooming and you may not be available for that spontaneous one-on-one, right? So we are telling people that there are limited numbers of face-to-face appointments.
Yes.
You need to book ahead if that's what you want.
And to alleviate some of the stress of each of you having to deliver all of this information in your classes, there will be a Canvas page set up with all of the links, all of the tutorials and instructions on how to do this is going to be shared out to every instructor to link within their class. So it'll no longer be, you know, each of us trying to paraphrase and retell each class what's going on. We'll have a customized page that'll just go out to everyone with these instructions.
But you do want to make sure that you are comfortable understanding it in case the questions come. Yesterday, I was in a presentation for the new RCME students, and one of the instructors had just gotten through explaining a particular thing about using WebAdvisor, and that included textbooks and the links to the bookstore. And she had just finished explaining it. It was right up on the screen. And then in the chat pops up, how do we know what our textbooks are for a class? And she had just gone over it. She had shown it to them and she had told them. So you know what, this
Yeah.
happens all the time. So just be prepared to repeat information. And I just want to make sure that you're comfortable, that you understand the process. So having these little videos is going to be a super helpful thing.
Yeah. And then while we're looking at this, because it is quite a process to update the bookings page from the administration side and like fix somebody's schedule, if you have a doctor's appointment, hair appointment, whatever, you need the day off, you have a family emergency, whatever you're doing, go on and book appointments with yourself to take that time off so that Dr. B doesn't have to get an email, update the bookings, and then re-update it after your appointment comes back on. So I tested this over the summer. I booked 12 back-to-back sessions with myself to take an entire day off. And it just removes you.
It just removes you from availability, and then you just let me know.
Yeah. So if at any time you do need to take a, like, I can't do a one-on-one, or I got stuck in traffic and I can't do that half hour, you can just come on here and book an appointment with yourself and it will remove you from that available time. So that'll make things a little more streamlined. If your schedule's changing permanently, obviously you will need to let Dr. B know so she can fix it. But if it's just a one-day thing, just book the appointment with yourself and it'll remove it from the schedule. So we looked at this page very briefly. It has all of the instructions on the top. I'm making a video probably tonight after training that will go through all of this. So students will have this presented to them in a visual way and then in an audio video way. So they can read through these each time they book an appointment, or they can just watch the video and go from there. When it comes time for both your one-on-one appointments and your small group sessions, we're gonna,
Information.
yeah.
Work.
Because the school got rid of ConferZoom, we no longer have a house for all of our Zoom links. So I've set up a page. We're going to look at it in a minute. It's hyperlinked here on this schedule page, so students can access it here. You can access it here, or you can simply click on the Tutor Zoom Rooms tab that's now in our navigation panel. And you will see the fun little tiles I made for all of us. These will be hyperlinked with your personal Zoom room link. So when a student needs to come to a session with you, they just need to find your face, click on it, and it will automatically launch your Zoom session.
Isn't that great? That's so great.
I love that.
Yeah, it's very cool. So that means there's a place for you to put your Zoom room address.
Yes, and so we're gonna look,
We're going to that next.
yeah.
Okay.
So right,
Can we also have our embedded tutors put it on their Canvas? Or is this like a difficult thing to do?
no, you could put it on your page as well, so they could access it directly from in the class.
Yeah, that would be snaz.
Yeah, that's actually,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
we're gonna go over setting up an embedded tutor page. And so we can talk
Maybe
about
we
that.
can Add that. That would be.
Yeah.
awesome.
Is it hard to do that? 'Cause, like, I love
No,
the
you
name,
literally
but she's
just-
Not so great at the Canvas part.
We're gonna solve that issue as well today.
Yeah, we have a master sheet plan. It's gonna make everybody's life so much easier, we hope.
Yay.
They
Yeah.
just have to use the content we give them.
Yeah.
So,
So right now, just in the documents on SharePoint, there's a Excel sheet that says tutor Zoom room links. We're going to talk about how to customize your link so it has your name in it instead of just a bunch of random digits. And so once you get your link customized, just copy and paste it and drop it in this spreadsheet. And then I'm going to pull it and hyperlink all of those photos in Canvas. So yeah, we're going to do that. Okay, so we talked about all of that. So let's actually look at the Zoom right now since we're talking about it. So to access your Zoom profile,
let me just say something about Zoom access. Caitlin, you don't have it yet. They were supposed to be adding it overnight. That's the same with Starfish. Starfish, they all got submitted and they're supposed to be added overnight. So you don't have access to these two things yet because they require district level teacher permissions. So you won't be able to do it yet, but as soon as you get contacted, there's a few steps to go through and we'll talk you through that.
So to access your main profile page, you should all have this already set up pretty much, but it's just zoom.us, and then you click on the website, and then you just need to make sure that you sign in using your approved SCCCD account. If you're signed into your private one, this isn't going to work, and you're not going to be able to do any of the stuff that we're going to talk about. You have to be signed into the licensed version through the school.
Yeah, let's just reiterate that school email ID for everything. Yeah, you guys all know that by now. No Gmails, no Yahoos, none of that stuff. You have to use your school email.
So once you're signed in, the very first page you're going to look at is your profile page. You can customize your photo. This is the photo that students will see if you turn your video off while in Zoom. So upload a photo so that they can at least see your face if you're not going to be on camera. It can be any photo, that looks professional and isn't crazy. You can also update your name as it appears within the Zoom. So I tagged mine with RWC Tutor at the end of it. You can customize yours how you would like by just editing your main profile information. Below that, you really don't need to mess with any of the other stuff because we don't want any of our private, phone numbers or anything to appear in Zoom, but you want to scroll down to meeting. And this is where you can customize both your meeting ID and your personal link. So if you click edit on personal meeting ID, you can set it up to have the digits that you want. So if you want to make it your birthday, I made mine my student ID number. The only thing it won't accept is you can't start the ID with a 0. So like you can't do your standard 0, whatever ID. You have to start it with the actual digits, or you can make this any 10-digit number you want. Then the part where you can add your name to the link is if you update your personal link, you can have it to where instead of digits at the end, it'll have your name. I started doing this that way. If I email links to students, it pops up and it shows it as Laura Hand's personal Zoom room versus just a string of numbers. So I would recommend doing it with your name, but if you want to just stick to digits, that's all right as well.
It's easier for me if we're uniform. I really would prefer you guys to just put your names in that personally, just because it's easier for students. They feel more confident in a real person. So I think just using the name at the end, and it, just all goes in the string, there's no space.
And we copy that once we're done to SharePoint.
Yeah, you can just drag your mouse across it, copy and paste it into the Excel sheet on SharePoint. And then you can update your passwords and all of that if you want to. The next thing we're going to look at, a few of the features in Zoom changed when they got rid of our ConferZoom this last semester. So you want to go to meetings. This is where you can launch meetings from, unless you do it from inside Canvas, or if you have the desktop app on your computer, you can launch your meetings from there. But if you're using the website to launch your meetings, you would do it from meetings, and then you would just click personal room and it'll say start, but because I have it on, it says join now. And so you can also copy your invitation here. Like if you need to send it to a student who's not on Canvas, or you need to send it out to somebody, you can grab your invitation from here as well. So that's the meetings page. We don't worry about webinars because we're not really doing those. The recordings page is important, and it's pretty much the same as it's been. It'll show you all of your recorded sessions. So this is important for our paperwork because you need to come in after your session, click on that meeting, and grab the shareable link from that session because you're going to paste it on both the daily attendance form and the Starfish form. You can also use this link to share it to a student. If they ask you for a recording of the session because they need to go back and rewatch it or whatever, this is how you're going to do it because we disabled the Zoom page in Canvas. So they can no longer access recordings through there. They have to request one from you.
And if, and you know, you can also offer, you know, if you see somebody's just struggling and they need to have information repeated, hey, I can send you the link for our session when we're done. It takes a little bit to render. It takes 10 minutes sometimes. Sometimes it's
Depends
really
on the
fast.
length of the session.
Yeah, depends. But, yeah.
And then to look at settings, most of it's the same. Not a lot of it changed. But the few features that we do want to make sure everyone enables is the waiting room. Because we're no longer using password protection on our Zooms, they're open. If you enable the waiting room, that gives you that added layer of security that a student has to request to be admitted to your session. And if they come on and it doesn't look like somebody you recognize, or it's not somebody that's supposed to be there, you can just reject them from the session. So make sure that your waiting room is enabled. And that's the first part under security on the settings tab.
So I've had this enabled, but it still doesn't put people in my waiting room.
Huh.
Have you been using the old link from ConferZoom?
No, when I need my link, it's not using my copy paste it.
Do you have it? It should automatically put them in a waiting room when they join from that link.
I mean, maybe it is, but I'm not like letting anybody in.
You don't get a
It just shows-
deet and it says admit so-and-so. Okay, then we'll tech support afterwards and I'll have you enter a session and I'll try and join. But if it's enabled, the other thing you want to do is you want to customize your waiting room. So if you just click customize, you can edit the message. So I have mine to say that, you know, I will let them in shortly. You can make this message whatever you want it to be, that, you know, welcome to so-and-so's waiting room, you know, be with you shortly or whatever. And then you can add an image. So I created a custom image for the Reading and Writing Center. It's in Canva. If you want to use it, you can grab it or I'll email it to you, or you can put your profile picture there as well so that they're looking at your face as they're waiting in your waiting room. Because we've had several students who are like, I don't know whose room I'm in, or, you know, whatever. So you can put just the Reading and Writing Center icon I created in there, or you can put your profile picture there. I didn't mess with adding a description because each appointment is slightly different. And so coming up with like a just generic description, I didn't really mess with, but at least the message and the icon, you can customize those. And then maybe this is what's wrong, Hannah,
I just clicked it. I think that is what's wrong.
that you need to have it set up for no matter who enters.
And the box, which box? Users invited during the meeting by host or co-host will.
Bypass, yeah. So you want to make sure that you enter the editing options and that you select everyone gets dumped into the waiting room if it's not checked already. This also disables the allowing participants to join before you. I had mine set up to where students could just be on Zoom and then I would join as soon as I was able to. I had issues with that because then I would start just getting dozens of notifications. So-and-so's in your room, so-and-so's in your room. So I disabled that. So students can only join after I have opened it. They can sit in the waiting room, but they can't actually enter the session until I officially open it. So that's just a setting for myself. If you don't care if they join before you, then that's up to you. Because we're doing the Zoom links on our tiles now, you need to make sure that you disable the passcode settings that we've used in the past. Because if you have a new passcode attached to every session, the hyperlink in Canvas will not work. It'll start asking your students for passwords, and that's a nightmare. So make sure that you disable the password protection. That's why we're moving to a waiting room, because for the links to work on Canvas, we can't have the password protection. You can leave the embed passcode in the link activated because it's going to be embedded in the link on Canvas. So that one's fine, but the ones that require it for every session, it'll mess up the hyperlink. I think that's the only changes that were made switching from ConferZoom. If at any time during the semester something gets, off, or you don't know how to turn something on, you can always contact me, because I've gone through like all of these settings 1,000 times. So I don't have my computer up, but I highly recommend that you download the desktop app controller for Zoom, because that gives you an icon on your computer. You don't have to be logged on to the internet. You don't have to be logged on to Canvas or anything. You can just open Zoom directly from your desktop. That's also the easiest way to update any of your actual in-meeting sessions. Your video, your audio, your virtual backgrounds, the reaction buttons, all of that is updatable within the app, and it's free to download. If you're Microsoft, you just go to the Microsoft Store and download it. If you're Apple, you can go to the Apple Store and download it. And then just make sure you sign in with the same SCCCD email, and it'll link the two accounts between the online version and the desktop version. That's also the easiest way to check for updates. Each time they roll out a new update, it could mess up your Zoom sessions if you don't have the most recent version on your computer as well. So, yeah.
It's frustrating just to be aware of the technology until we have our lunch break. Okay, Ms. Laura, what is our next portion of the slide deck?
Embedded tutoring.
Embedded tutoring, Ready Road. Okay, so we're just going over the content. There's gonna be a new little piece of homework for you. We're gonna have to make on the RWC course site.
Ooh.
All of the website, our course resource thing. You, and under people, you should all be teacher status, which means you can go inside and create things. So we're gonna create a page with all of your content on it. So we'll have a uniform page that everybody will give to their instructors. That will have their picture, their information, their schedule, and maybe even their Zoom room. Like that.
Yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah, that would be kind of a cool idea. Okay, here we go. Picking up from the small group stuff and going on to the next.
So, everyone here is familiar with the embedded small group tutoring, because even Caitlin, you had tutoring with Janelle, so you know from the student side. We're going to set up groups as we've done since COVID with our enrollment form. Again, with the pages that are going to be created to get sent out to instructors, the enrollment form information will be on those pages, but you can always post announcements about it or remind students throughout the semester to go in and fill out the enrollment form. So I lost where I was.
Right here, so
Yeah,
they'll get reminded, they'll fill it out. Then I have it on the big master form, and then I notify you, so-and-so has completed their small group enrollment, and then I just send that content to you, and then that's how you contact them and match up your availability with their availability.
Yep.
So
and
that
so
works out pretty well.
yeah, and so there'll be more on that. Like, we'll actually look at the form. It didn't really change. A little bit has changed because we don't have 272 anymore, but really that was just one question, whether they had been enrolled in group tutoring before. So the form is still the same that we've been using the last few semesters. As far as your embedded tutor assignments, everyone's been notified which classes they're going to be embedded in and who your teams are. So just make sure that you know who your instructors are and who your teammates are so that you can be in contact with both of them.
And every team member has a lead tutor who's a lead tutor. So Annie is the lead tutor for her team. And Yuritsa, you and Hannah you are a co because you are basically the same. And on your team, Jackie will be Laura. And yeah, so Caitlin, you already got that. So she's your lead person. But you two know each other and have worked each other, so I think we're gonna be fine. Okay. sorry.
If possible, contact your instructor and see if you can Zoom with them before the official start of school. But because they have training this week as well, and we only have 3 days left really before school starts, that's probably not gonna happen.
But you could at least send them an email if you
Mhm.
haven't already. And most of you sent emails to your instructor.
I need the email for the other instructor. Not Lizelle.
No, you guys.
Yeah, I am going to her last name, inspection, so I talked to her a little bit, but.
I know you're.
Yeah, that's one of the things we kind of talked about
Yeah.
on Monday is working in teams.
Yeah.
Official, official.
Sending, like Jackie, we're gonna get together and send just one email with all of our stuff so that we're not all four sending information.
Oh, you know what? That might be a good idea. That might be a good
I had written like an email out to students. from, like, both
That's
me and
okay.
Yuritsa.
That's
I haven't shown her
okay.
yet, but I did, and it included like all the links to everything,
Cool.
except for the enrollment. She didn't have that.
Laura was the one that responded saying that she wanted to like meet and then the Gretchen.
Gretchen Fitchell, yeah.
Gretchen. She said that she doesn't even know what's going on. And she can't,
Oh.
she says she can't meet with us though.
Oh,
But she apparently.
Okay, so
Uh,
she's the
Hannah.
Use us to
admin.
find like somebody else.
There's an extension cord underneath the table in the back that you might be able to get to reach the
So
plugs
when I
behind
sent
you.
out those emails, Gretchen Fitchell her email should have been on.
The
there.
table that's under the coffee maker and microwave,
Yeah.
there's a extension cord under there.
Because there was an email with all of the teachers and then all of us.
oh.
Yeah, so she's a new adjunct, well, not new, she's an adjunct, and she's taught, I think, for 3 semesters or
It
so.
might.
But this might, she just hasn't really had embedded tutors before. So you guys will be her, you'll be her introduction to what embedded tutor can do for you, you know? So that, we're gonna have a page that we're gonna have you guys each make with your own content on it, so that they can just go ahead and upload it themselves onto their own Canvas page, and then that way everything is very uniform. Some of our more experienced tutors have us, you know,
Yeah, mine usually.
all kinds of stuff. And other ones were brand new, very little, so we're gonna try and make it more uniform.
We're gonna talk about that right now. So
Ta-da! Okay, so then this is
New-
where.
yeah, new
Wanna go?
information for everyone. Okay, so I did some playing around on Canvas over the summer and figured out that pages from within our Canvas and any Canvas, if you have teacher credentials, can be sent to any instructor. So in the past, we've had to send our information to the instructor and then they have to copy and paste or set up a page for us and all of that. And so it can be kind of a hassle for them. And then it's not exactly customized the way you want it because it's up to them to put it all together for you. But since we're all teachers at the Reading and Writing Center Canvas page, you can create your own page by going to the pages in the navigation panel. And then at the top, you're going to click View All Pages.
This is so slick, you guys.
And you're going to see all of the pages that are attached to the Reading and Writing Center Canvas page. But what you want to do is you want to click New Page in the top right-hand corner. And I'm going to open mine before I click New Page. So once you click New Page, you're going to get a blank page. And the text field is almost exactly like the discussion boards and forum posts that we're used to doing in class. So this works almost exactly like a discussion post. You can enter your text, you can upload images, you can link things. So you should be fairly familiar with how to put stuff in the page from doing stuff in your classes already.
But what you can do
Yeah,
is use Laura's as a template.
Yes.
Show them how to.
Make
Very
sure in the title box that you put your name, because that's what's going to be visible in the list of pages. And when we send it to instructors, they're going to see your name on that page. So it'll be easy for them to import the correct thing. So make sure that you enter your first and last name in the box with the title at the top. And then you'll input all of your information, and I'm going to show you my page so you can get an idea of what you want to do. And if you're really not that familiar with Canvas, you can even just copy my page and switch out my information for yours. So once you get yours done, you want to click save and publish if you're completely done with it and ready to go. If you're working on it and you just need to save it as a draft, you can just click save and then come back to it, finish it, and publish it. And really, no students in the Reading and Writing Center are going to be able to see this. It's just for teachers. So even if you don't have it done and you do click save and publish, it's not going to affect anything. It's just if you make edits to it after you've published it, you have to republish it. So that's the blank. But if we look at mine, I have it set up to where I have a photo I created, and I'm going to show you how to do this as well. I have some general information about myself. I have the link to my video biography here. And then I have some information of how they can contact me to ask questions through the inbox. And I've hyperlinked my email so they can click that and it'll open their Outlook and they can email me directly. I've created an image that has my schedule in it. And this is going to be a brilliant new feature because I'm going to show you how to do this in Google Drawings. It's a published URL to the internet. So anytime you change it in your Google Drive, it will automatically update across the board wherever you have that picture located. So it'll automatically update your information across all of your classes without you having to go in and do it one by one.
For those classes that you're in.
God,
Very cool. Very cool.
And then below that, I have some standard information that you're just going to copy and paste. All of the top part, you can customize if you want, or you can just use mine. And like I said, just switch out the names and your links. But this bottom part, the bullet points, copy and paste that because it's the directions directly from our Reading and Writing Center page. And then the enrollment form is hyperlinked. So if you copy and paste it, it'll take the link for you as well. So you don't have to go in and grab the link from the form and link it yourself.
Somewhere else we can add another link for Zoom link.
Yeah, so we can add the tile for Zoom rooms. I might actually drop that in on my web thing. So then I just have a little bit at the bottom and then sincerely your name. So if you want to set up your own, go ahead and give it a shot. If you don't feel super confident with that, you can open mine, click on the 3 dots and just hit copy to, and then you're going to select the Reading and Writing Center from the drop-down pages, and that will create a duplicate of my page that you can then go in and just edit however you would like. So you have the option to just start from scratch and build your own, or you can copy mine and work from there.
Can't you just like, can't you just highlight what you want?
Yeah, so you don't even have to open mine to edit it. You can just grab text, right click, click copy, and it'll copy it into your page. So you can just copy whatever you would like.
Whatever you have.
Mm-hmm.
because if we duplicate hers, wouldn't that do the schedule that connects to your schedule?
Well, you are gonna make your.
You would delete the images out of it
Oh,
and replace it with your own.
oh,
So a few of the features that I have on my page, the purple border that I have around the outside, I created that by just inputting a one-celled table. So if you want the border around your page, just create a one-celled table and then copy and paste all of your information into that table. Once you have the table in the canvas, it's just going to look like a plain little cell. You click on it and it gives you this drop-down menu right here. To edit the appearance of the table, you want to click on the very left-hand icon to open the properties. And so you really don't want to mess with cell spacing or padding or even the width or size. But if you want the border to be thicker or skinnier, you can change the width. I have mine set to 10, but if you want it fatter or thinner, you can set it to whatever you want. The alignment, I just always set it to center so that when the student opens the page, it takes up the whole page. And then for the color and how the border appears, you just click on advanced, and then you can select the border style. You can do solid, dotted, dash, double, groove. There's all kinds, so you can pick whatever you like best. And then the border color. You can type in the names of colors. It pretty much just has your standard color palette. Like it doesn't have anything specific like lime green or chartreuse. But if you really want like a very specific color, it will sometimes work with a hex code. So you can open a website, pull a hex code and paste it in there, and it most of the time worked. Some of them got a little wacky. So you'll just have to choose the colors. I left mine with a plain transparent background, but you could always put in a background color if you would like. So that's how you edit the table if you want the border around the outside. If you don't want to mess with it, it'll just appear as a plain Canvas page, and that's fine too. As for my photo here with the frame around it, as well as the schedule photo, you need to have a Google account, which I think pretty much everyone these days has a Google account. If you don't have one, sign up, they're free. But what you want to do to create both the profile picture like I have, if you don't want to use the one from Canva or just a photo you have, you want to come to your Google Drive, and under New, you're going to scroll down to More and open Google Drawings. So this works a lot like Paint does. You're going to see this checkered background because all of the images in Google Drawings start as a transparent image. And from there, you can insert your photo. You can put a border around it. What I did to get the flowers around mine was I simply looked for a transparent background on Google, copied and pasted it in, and put it around my photo. So you can customize your profile picture if you want to go through the process of doing that. So the border I have is just a transparent border image that I copied and pasted from Google. And then because this is in Google Drawings, anytime I update my photo, like if I take a new profile picture, I can insert the new photo and it'll automatically update it on all of the pages in Canvas as well. So you can change your photo out or your border. If you want to do like holiday borders or whatever, you can be as customized as you would like to be. So if you want to go through all of that, you can create your profile picture.
And then the table for the.
Yes. So when you're ready to do your schedule image, you'll open a new Google Drawing. And then to get the box in the background so that it's not transparent, I just inserted a generic square from the shapes. And then I put a black border and a white background. But you can kind of change the colors. You can add a custom border to your schedule, just like you have on your photo if you want them to look the same. You can make this look however you want. Once you have that generic square in the background, you can start to drop in text boxes. So I have one text box here for my schedule, and these hours are tentative.
Be sure to make sure you use that language that covers you in the event of somebody arguing about, oh, blah, 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 they weren't available. They have to always be reminded of their students too. And you have a life just like they do, and sometimes things happen, so.
And then for the actual, so you can just type them in a text box if you want. I wanted mine to be more uniform. So to enter the days and times of my schedule, I just inserted a table. And to do that, you just click on Insert, Table, and then you select the number of cells that you want. So I just did a 5x2 table for the 5 days of the week I'll be working. And then you can change the font, the size. You can make it look fancy. Yesterday, Yuleni, one of our new tutors, she used a really interesting like handwritten font on hers to make it more aesthetic. She changed the color of the table border. So you can customize it however you would like. And then on the bottom of the schedule, I just have a little disclaimer about my hours are flexible for the most part. So if I'm on the schedule, like if nobody's booking my 8 a.m. appointments, I might switch and do like a 4 o'clock appointment, or a student can message me privately and ask like, hey, can I meet with you at 6 p.m.? If I have time in my schedule to do that, I will approve that. So I have this little disclaimer about I'm flexible and they can request appointments outside of my work hours. You do not have to have that disclaimer. If your schedule is set and you don't want to work outside of those hours, you don't need to include that bottom part that I have on mine. Then once you have your Google Drawings set up and finished and you're happy with how they look, the way to get them to be on Canvas is you go to File, and then in the drop-down menu under File, you want to select Publish to Web. Once you click that, it's going to give you the option to grab a link or an embed code. You want the embed code. So click that. Then all you have to do is copy and paste the code it gives you from Google into your Canvas page. And to embed an image, you're going to click on this little cloud here. It's the very last icon in the ribbon. It says embed if you hover over it. You click the cloud and then you just paste, whoops, I didn't grab the link. You just paste the link in there and hit submit, and it will drop your image in. Once it's in, you can move it around. It functions just like another image. So like if I wanted to put it below the paragraph on my page, above the paragraph, you can move it around. If it comes through and it looks either really big or really small, you can click on the image and click image options. And this will show you the link where it's located. It'll show you that it's an embedded image, and then you can change the size of that schedule. So like if I wanted mine to look a little bit bigger, I might take it up to like 1,000, I don't know, click done, and you can see that it increased in size a little bit. So you can play with the size by clicking on the image and then going to image options. Getting the text to wrap is nearly impossible in Canvas. So if you have a hard time getting it to wrap, you just have to play with it. What I had to do was I had to drag my image to the left, and then I had to set it to left, and then I set it back to right, and then I drug it back up to the hello. And so you just have to like drag it around until it convinces Canvas that it will wrap the text for you. And then you might end up with like a weird extra line at the top. So you just have to play with it a little bit and move your text around until you're happy with it. And then, or I like my photos on the right. I don't know why that, or on the left, that's my preference, but it's easier to get it to wrap if you set your photos to a right aligned. Wherever you want to put your photo, whatever's easiest. I just, for whatever reason, prefer mine to be on, and now it's gone. So one of the other things to do, if you're not going to use a Google Drawing photo with the embed code to upload a photo, simply click on the photo link right here, and then you want to upload an image. This is going to open this web box, and you can upload an image from your computer. So you can just go to your files. If you have a profile picture saved on your computer somewhere that you want to use, instead of going through Google Drawings, you would just drag it into this box with the rocket ship, and it will upload it and put your photo in. So that's the two ways to get photos in there, either with the embed code or to just drag it from a saved file on your computer. Code back. Since I deleted my photo. And then I think that's like super large. So like, yeah, you can see how the wrap is really weird.
Creative processes, right? So however much you guys like to play with things, you are as welcome to get, creative as you want, but be reasonable, use professional pictures. Women in particular, we don't need to see down to your navel. Some people in the past have used some kind of questionable clothing choices. Don't do that. Because then I just have to take a picture and look at yourself. And we've had comments from other people in the tutorial center that also people know that you are a role model and you want to be professional. So just be professional. So, other than that, this is a one-stop shop for your instructor. So, what we have been doing is having you contact them, give them your schedule and your video link. Now it's all on one page for them. And so when they go, they'll get a note in their inbox. It says you've got content, and they can just upload the content and put it where they want. If they've got a side tab for you already designated, great, or maybe they'll put you in a module. It's really up to them where they want to place your content, but it does need to be someplace prominent where students can find it easily. So we meet tomorrow as a department, and I'm going to go over all this stuff with them just so that they know we try to reduce and simplify the whole embedded tutor process. And so the unfortunate thing with the department, we don't get our adjuncts with us, and they are also not present. So I was
And then you can select any sheet you want. And so generic square. Yeah, and then so just mark back your mouse.
Oh, I like
And
that.
it'll set up a square.
Good, Jackie. I
I
like
took it
it.
like a long time.
Yeah, no, I like that.
It'll use the fun shape again. Since you can flip it. And then maybe just drag it across above your table. And then you can resize it. So now you can change the color of it, the
It's a
background.
good picture one.
I can change. Yeah, so, and then if you want to change the border, that's the ones here, so it'll
I
have
like
like
your
dash border or if you want to get pattern. Switch.
So this is what kind of.
And then now you can like flip your table and drag it up to it.
I want
It's just
that.
an extension.
Get it to where it has the form. That will be now, right? And then it's the color one.
Oh, thank you.
And then, so click on the image. Yes.
Okay, and do that. I love that. That's like my favorite little thing.
Format. And then, align. There's a range. Yes. And then send that one. And then the other will be on top.
So again, you can play with this. You don't have to get it done today. Like I said, you can save it as a draft and come back to it later. A few of the tutors who were in training on Monday have their pages done. So you can go in and look and see what theirs look like to get some ideas as well. Once you have your page complete and you're ready to send it out, What you want to do is you want to click on the 3 little dots in the upper right-hand corner to open this menu. You have the option to delete the page. So like if you created a duplicate or you messed up and you need to make another one, whatever, you can delete it. But what you're really looking to do is click on the send to option. So this will open up the send to, and it works fairly well if you just start typing in the professor's name. You don't actually need their email address or faculty ID number. So like if I wanted to send this to Dr. B, if I just start typing in her name, you'll start to see contacts that are all listed in Canvas, and you can just find the person you're looking for. Once you click that, if you're embedded in multiple classes, you can send it to multiple instructors at once. So you can just type in the name of the second instructor or third instructor. And so once you get the send tos entered, you'll just hit send, and then that will notify them that they have content. And where it comes through to, if they ask you, I'm assuming they all know, but if for some reason, if they think it's going to get sent to their email, you can tell them, no, it's sent to your Canvas. They just need to go into account, and then they'll be notified that they have shared content. And they should get a notification in Canvas that they have shared content waiting for them. Once they open the shared content, they'll be able to see the pages that have been shared with them, and then they will have the option to just import that content. So if they do ask where it went to, you can just tell them it's in their Canvas content. So that's how that works.
They're making their lives a lot easier by doing this, I promise.
And then while you guys are still fiddling with that, I'm just going to show you this briefly. I don't have it 100% done yet, but these pages will be sent to the instructors as well. I'm working on an embedded tutor page that has all of our information for the center on it, how students can self-enroll in the Canvas course, how they can email their information for email consultations, how to sign up for one-on-one appointments. So this will be generalized, uniform information that they can input for their embedded tutor page. And then I have some instructions on how they can put in your content in conjunction to this page if that's how they choose to do it. If they just have it set up as multiple pages, like in a module, they'll have one for Reading and Writing Center and then one for you, but that'll be up to them. And this will have the video links and the walkthroughs for both the booking, the enrolling in small group, and accessing our Zooms as well.
So everything in one place. So this should help Gretchen a whole lot, but it will require people like her going through and actually looking at it. And a lot of times our adjunct instructors are teaching several places, and so they're running around a lot, and they don't get paid a lot of money, so they you know, they do the best they can with what they've got, and so the more we can do to make their job easier, the better. It's just that she'll have to take advantage of it, so we'll see. The very least that she can do is email back and forth with you, and at least know your schedules, and then that she gets this content and just makes it available to students so that we can point them in the right direction. It's hard when they're brand new idea. Most of our people are at the intermediate level of using embedded tutors now. They're comfortable with content presentation and interaction with discussion boards and assignment assistance. A few of them have gotten much more comfortable. Mr. D and Laura have been working together for such a long time. And so with Garza and Kate Watts, they're very much more comfortable. Eileen Ackerson would be as well. She's just not had as many 1A classes since studying with some of these other folks.
Yeah. And then we're also hoping to send this page to instructors as well, so they can link it directly in their Canvas. So I have the actual enrollment form embedded on a Canvas page now, both on our page, and then if instructors decide to post it to theirs as well, you can direct students just to open the page and fill out the form right there within Canvas without having to go to Google. So that will be made available as well, but the links will appear on the embedded tutor page so that the student can click the link and be redirected to Google if they do it that way too.
Yeah, you know, the idea of building in redundancy, like many pathways, many ways in.
If you guys want to just take a second to finish what you're doing on your page and save it so that we can get through the embedded tutor part before lunch, that would be awesome. So since you don't really need to look at the slide, I'll just finish this one off. Some of the things that you will want to discuss with your instructor, either via email, or if you do have the opportunity to meet them on Zoom prior to classes starting, or even during week 1, find out when and how the class will be meeting. We have some faculty doing synchronous sessions. We have some faculty just recording lectures and posting them. We have some faculty who are doing office hours every day where they're just going to sit on Zoom and see if students show up. So find out what hours they're planning to be either live or when they're going to be posting content so that you're aware of when you can be checking in as well. Find out how your instructor wants you to introduce yourself to the class. For instructors who are doing synchronous sessions, maybe they want you to try and be there in the Zoom so you can introduce yourself live to the class. If they're doing a recording, maybe they want you to log in for a few minutes if you're able to be on that recording, or they might just have you introduce yourself through an announcement, in which case you can do a recording on your own and post a video announcement if you want to do a video, or if you just want to do a handwritten announcement to introduce yourself. However you would like to do it is up to you, but find out what the instructor would like as well. It would be good to ask them what responsibilities you will have in the class. Every instructor is a little bit different, so they might want you to do different things than what you're used to. If you're embedded for a new instructor that you haven't worked with before, you could run by a few of the things that you've done in other classes that you're comfortable doing to give them some ideas of what you're capable of, and then always just ask what they would like you to do as far as participation in that class goes. At this point, it might just be Fishel that hasn't had an embedded tutor on our list, because Baker and Barker and Vistum all had embedded tutors.
They all had really great words for the people that they had this time.
So yeah, it might just be Fishel. But if they've never had an embedded tutor, you can kind of run them through what you've done in other classes for other instructors to give them an idea of what's possible. Dr. B sent out the embedded tutor policies from our handbook to all faculty. So they should at least have an idea of what our guidelines are. And then you guys can discuss customizing what your actions will be in their class. Announcing the RWC services and establishing groups. Again, I'm going to try and have all of those pages to where Dr. B can present them to the faculty tomorrow. So introducing the services might not be necessary for you, but you should at least know and be able to talk students through those pages once they are input on Canvas if you get questions about it. And then throughout the semester, just keep promoting. The more active you are and the more passive aggressive you are,
Will make a big difference.
the more appointments you'll probably get. So don't just feel like, oh, I made my announcement in week 1. They know I'm here. I made a weekly announcement. Hey, these are my hours. I have openings. Sign up with me. You have an essay due Friday. Sign up with me.
And you know, your instructors will appreciate it, because I tell you that it's so frustrating. The instructors record the lectures, they give the instructions, they step through the steps in the modules, and so many students don't look at it. And then they'll turn in their assignment and they've not followed directions and they want to tear their hair out. So what we're trying to do is add another layer of, did you know you got that part one of the essay is coming up? Part one is due first. You need to do this. If you need help where you haven't started, you're on. You just need to bug them because again, that pass fail rate in English 1A, it still hovers between 50 and 55%. And I thought it would go down. We all thought it would go down significantly the first semester of COVID. But what happened is we just lost a lot of students, but the ones that hung in there, they actually passed with a higher rate than normal. It was like 65%. And then over the summer, that summer first semester was at 80%. So I'm just now getting the grades in from this summer. I'll be curious to see what our English 1As did this summer. 6 weeks is not a long time to cover that content. So you have to be a really well prepared student who really devotes time. If you don't, you're not going to pass it. So, I'd be surprised if we had that high of a rate again, but it's possible. It's possible that summer students are more motivated, more organized, and more willing to crunch, It's possible. So anyway.
And then once you do establish your groups and your one-on-one appointments, just let your instructor know. I mean, you'll have them posted on your page, but if you just send them an email, like I've set up groups at these times, I'll be doing one-on-ones at these times. That way, if they're in a meeting with a student going over revisions or something, they can recommend that the student meet with you and they'll kind of have your schedule fresh in their minds to let students know. And then if you have changes throughout the semester, just give them an update. On that note about making announcements in your class, for instructors that you've worked with previously, they might be comfortable with you just posting an announcement. Some of the other faculty who haven't had an embedded tutor, or maybe they don't know you very well because this is your first time working with them, they might want to screen your announcements first. So ask the instructor if it's okay for you to post announcements or post to the discussion board and see what they're comfortable with. Some of them might just tell you, yeah, sure, go ahead and move on. And others might want to look at what you're posting prior to you posting it. So find out what they're comfortable with you doing within their Canvas. Be prepared to participate in the class. Again, be as engaged as possible. You only have a certain number of hours during the week, so your engagement with the class via discussion boards or workshops and stuff might not be as high if your schedule is full of appointments. But if you have downtime during the week, maybe you're not booked for one-on-one sessions, or maybe you had a group that fell through, you might have time to go on and be active on the discussion board or post announcements for the instructor. So just be as engaged in the class as you can that fits your schedule.
Because when I see that you're on in the box on the schedule on the day, I want to know that you are doing something related to the class. So when you are doing your timesheet, if it's not one-on-one appointments, if it's not group appointments, if it's not time with the instructor, you need to write what it was you were doing. Working on your paper jam article, or creating a discussion question for my instructor, working on course content for my instructor, meeting with students on discussion or something like that. So we just have more ammunition for why we should keep doing this. We just need to keep specific records.
And then part of that too, if the instructor asks you to do something, like they want you to engage with all of the students during an essay workshop, and you don't have time for that in your schedule, let them know that you just don't have the hours available to do that. Don't feel obligated. I mean, yes, we want to try and serve the instructors as best as possible, but if you don't have time in your schedule to do what they're asking, just let them know. Or if you do end up with downtime, maybe an appointment falls through or a student was a no-show, you can always just log on to Canvas and take care of what they've asked you to do. So just be transparent with what you're capable of and what your schedule allows.
And they've all been told what your hours are, so they are aware that you are only available for X number of hours a week, and that you are sharing your hours with another instructor.
Mhm.
There's nobody that's only working with one instructor this semester, because we've lost a couple, so it's uncharted, but we're gonna do the best we can. So,
As soon as possible, whether you go on the bookstore and you search for the course that you're embedded in, or if you can get a syllabus ahead of time for your instructor, find out what texts and materials they're requiring. Most of us are students ourselves and don't have time to actually read the texts for that particular class, but both Dr. B and I subscribe to lit charts. We can get summaries, cheat sheets, walkthroughs, so that you have, at least a PDF summary of the text that will help you understand what the students are reading if you don't have time to read it yourself. And then if you're unfamiliar with the instructor with whom you're going to be working, as far as their writing style, their expectations for essays, their prompts, see if you can get, most instructors keep like a essay in their portfolio that they can share out to you or students, and then maybe a writing prompt from a previous semester, so that you can kind of get an idea of what their style is. I think a good portion of us are working with instructors that we're familiar with, so that might not be as important, but a few instructors took the summer to completely reconstruct their Canvas. So even some instructors that have worked before, their content might be completely new this semester. So just get some samples and figure out what's best practices for helping students. Dr. B made this announcement in her message to the faculty that they need to enroll us as RC tutors on their Canvas pages. If you do not have an invitation from them by Monday, I would just send them a polite reminder that you need to be added to their Canvas course to access it.
and even if they've done that already, you may not access it because they may not have. published
Yeah,
it
exactly. If
yet.
they haven't published it yet.
So just be patient. If they haven't published it, you won't be able to see anything. And you could also remind them that, just in case they don't decide to publish it until, the morning of or the day before, could you please have a copy of the syllabus at least, so you can see what they're going to be doing?
Yeah. We have a number of odd start classes this semester. So like the classes that Jackie and I will be embedded in aren't actually starting until the 23rd. They're a 15-week course. So be aware of when your course is starting. Some of them, I don't think anybody in here is embedded for Professor Carly that's here today anyways.
No, I don't think so.
Hers are gonna be, oh yeah, no, it's Tammy and Annalie. Okay, so that doesn't particularly matter. But as far as your week 1 responsibilities and like making announcements and posting enrollment forms and stuff like that, depending on when your class starts is gonna make some of that awkward. If you have a class that's ending early, like Professor Carly's doing 3 6-week back-to-backs, you're gonna have to finish the paperwork for a class if it's ending earlier than the semester. So just be aware of the run time for your class. Once you're added to the Canvas page, because every instructor sets theirs up a little bit differently, just go through and click around, figure out like where they put stuff. Some instructors like to dump everything on the home page and not mess with any of the navigation panels on the side. Some of them do everything in a module and they turn everything else off. So just kind of click around, be familiar with the Canvas page. That way you can find stuff. And then if a student's having a hard time finding something, you can direct them to where they need to be. We request that you get a copy of the syllabus. And because we're all working in teams, really only one person from the team needs to do this. So team leaders, just like previous semesters, get a copy, download it, and upload it to our SharePoint. There's a folder for syllabi, and I have a fall 21 folder to where we can drop in all of the syllabi. When you download it, sometimes, depending on what the instructor named it, please rename the file to have the last name of the instructor and the class. That way, if one of the other tutors in the center needs to go in and look at that syllabus, they can easily identify it in the list. We had a couple that were imported last semester where it was just a string of numbers and nobody knew whose syllabus it was until we opened it. So just rename the file once you get it in SharePoint to have the instructor's name and the class. And then this will hopefully have been done for you again, because we're going to send out all of the standard RWC information now. But if they don't want to create like a embedded tutor tab on the side, or they just want you to put all of their your information in a module or something, figure out what information they've posted. If there's information they haven't posted, maybe you could request that it does get posted or imported, or figure out how you can adjust your page so that it has the information that's missing. Find out what tasks during the week they would like you to complete, if they have any at all. Some instructors are very self-contained and might not have stuff for you to do during the week. Others might ask you to post announcements for them or reminders about upcoming assignments and stuff. So find out what they would like you to do. And then if possible, try and be present and available for the designated times that the class meets, if they're meeting at all. If it doesn't work with your schedule, just inform them that you're unable to attend those sessions and that you might watch them or ask for the link after the fact if they're not already posting it to Canvas. Maybe you could get the link from that recorded class so that you can get caught up during your prep hours on what occurred during that session. It'll be your responsibility to put your groups together, just like we've done in the past. Once you get the enrollment information, you'll go through and look at the students and the times that they're available. How you set up your groups or how you organize your groups is up to you. I personally take all of the enrollment information, dump it in an Excel sheet so that I can move things around and keep track of all of the data I'm receiving from the enrollment forms. If you're a pen and paper type person, you can write down the days and times students are selecting, and then you can move them around to get your groups built. So however you do, that's up to you. But once you have your groups established, you need to email the students, let them know that you've placed them in a particular group on a certain day and time. I personally inform all students who have selected multiple times on their enrollment form that their placement is tentative. And I ask them to be flexible so that if I get another student who only has that one time available, I can put that student in the group and then move the student that I had already placed to another group. That's entirely up to you as well. That's just something that I do to try and maximize the potential of my groups and accommodate as many students as possible. It takes a little more organization on the tutor's part to make that happen, but that's entirely up to you.
It will make your coordinator very happy if you go out of your way to try and capture as many as possible. Because this semester, all of Julie Server's RC and me cohorts, the reading and math emphasis for students who are first semester, first gen students, they get into this special cohort, and they have been told that Reading Writing Center small groups is a huge priority, and they were going to commit 3 of those cohorts to enrolling in 272, but now we don't have 272. So now it's going to be on the students' honor and the instructor's honor to emphasize the necessity of the small group experience. So you're just going to have to really reinforce that. If you want to pass English 1A, here are the staggering sad statistics. It's a 50-55% chance of passing. Okay, your chances increase with regular weekly assistance. You know, think of it as a study group with your own cheerleader. You know, give them that language so that they are motivated to sign up. So try and be as flexible as you can with the time that you've got, and you know, and then let me know. Sometimes people go over their hours, and I'm okay with that up to a point. I don't want you to burn your own selves out, because I know primarily you are students too, right? That's your first job, and I have to respectful and supportive that like they used to do. And so I don't want you to do it at the expense of your own mental health or your own schoolwork. But if you have time and you're willing to give more, I can make sure that you get paid for those extra hours. They will just have to happen if they go beyond
During
19,
holidays.
then you'll get extra stuff during the holidays. And
Yeah.
so you'll have an extended paycheck. But you know, don't kill yourselves. I need you for spring semester.
And then for all group leaders or tutors who have been here more than 3 semesters, expanding your groups out beyond the typical 3 students per session is okay as long as you're comfortable with that and can manage that. For some of our new tutors, sticking to the 2 or 3 students might be preferable because you're not as used to running a group. So time management and getting to work with each student is going to be new to you. And then the last 2 semesters, we had groups of 1 because that was the only thing that was enrolled. So you might just have a really small group. But if you're comfortable and you have a lot of responses, you can expand your group past the 3 that's in the recommended handbook. I had some groups last semester that were large study groups where I had 7 or 8 students at a time because they were all from the same class. They were all working on the same thing. And some of them were motivated to just kind of work by themselves and ask questions occasionally. So if you have a group like that and you can manage it and you're able to work with each student, that's okay to have the larger groups. Ooh, we are rolling right along. We're going to do it again, Dr. B. Okay, so as far as filling out the enrollment form, I will have a video put together that instructs students on how to fill it out. It's super straightforward, but every semester we get students who mess it up, or they'll submit like 5 enrollment forms because they don't know if it went through or not, or they were impatient and didn't hear from a tutor immediately, so they start filling out forms every day. So it happens, but just try and tell them in the instructions, it says, please allow 24 to 36 hours to get a response from a tutor. Generally, we respond a lot faster than that, but that way they're just not bombarding you or Dr. B with a ton of enrollment forms. I think we had one student like 2 semesters ago that filled out like 12 forms
Yeah.
because they're like, I didn't hear from anybody, so I'm just gonna keep.
I really did. Yes, we noticed you. Yes, we noticed you.
Or, oh, I didn't put my ID in correctly. So then they'll fill out another form and then, oh, my email was wrong, and they'll fill out another form. So you might get several duplicates. In that case, just weed them out if you end up with duplicates. For the classes that are starting on day 1, August 9th, try and get your enrollment forms in by the end of the 2nd week. For those of us that are late start, obviously that's going to push everything out quite a bit. But really, we're accepting enrollment all semester. So no matter when the student fills out the form, I had a student join group 3 weeks before the end of the semester in the spring. So it's like you can take enrollment forms during the entire semester. Be mindful of your schedule and availability when forming your groups. If you're fairly new, or you know that you need a break between groups, don't feel obligated to stack up your groups just because that's the times that you have enrollment form. If you're working in a team and you know that your team member doesn't have as many enrollment forms as you do, pass some of them off at the times that you're maybe too busy or that you don't have available. Pass those enrollment forms to the other tutors on your team. Just make sure that you don't, like Dr. B said, burn yourself out. It can be exhausting. I had 6 back-to-back groups in the spring, and it was killer.
Yeah,
So just don't burn yourself out.
That's like what you do in a professional workplace. Like I said on Monday, when I was working as a therapist at Valley Children's, those long days when you have 7 particular people coming in for their weekly appointments back to back, you get a lunch break, but boom, 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 even if they're 55, 50-minute hours, you're still, you're going through intense conversation repeatedly, and it's exhausting. So I respect the fact you are students. Please don't do that to yourself. This is not, out of school job. This is a companion job. So it's one that's building skills for you, I hope, in terms of just general work, ability to deal with the work environment. But also the setting boundaries is really important. You've got to be nice to yourself. I would really say 3 chunks in a row is plenty. I just really, because you gotta have a break. And students need to understand that, that I've worked all of these hours prior, and this is a break for me. I need a break. And that's fine with me, to the best that you're able. Or you can schedule prep time, after a chunk, so that you don't have to have all of them back to back. So.
And then the other thing to be aware of is there are just going to be students that we can't help or that you can't help. They might not be available at the same times you're available, or they might only have 1 hour available at 7 in the morning, and you're just not working those hours. Pass those enrollment forms to your teammate. If that teammate can't help them, kick it back to Dr. B, and she will see who that student's instructor is, and maybe another tutor who's familiar with that class can take that student. You don't have to be in a group with an embedded tutor. I mean, that's the preference, but if all else fails, they can be placed with another tutor who's familiar with that class or not familiar with that class.
Because that's how we used to always do things anyway. That's how we always have to do things in here, because it was just too hard to juggle. And, time is of the essence. If they don't get in with your initial open schedule, chances are they're going to have a harder time getting in with you at a time that fits for them. So that's why we really encourage early on, hey, look at the times I have free. If you are interested at all, now is the time to sign up.
And then, it might be that, like, Jackie and I are embedded for Professor Connolly, who hasn't had a great history of having groups in her class. So maybe Jackie and I are free at a time that one of your students needs a session. So you can kick it to us, even though we're not the tutors in your class, or anybody else who might have downtime that's not as booked as other people. So just if you feel overwhelmed or you have too many applications and you can't fill them, then just send them back to Dr. B, and she will re-forward them to a tutor that has availability. Last parts of being embedded tutor, make sure that you stay in contact with your instructor on a weekly basis, especially if the class isn't meeting or you're unable to attend their meeting. And this doesn't necessarily have to be like you sit down on Zoom with your instructor for an hour meeting. This could be as simple as a brief check-in via email or the Canvas inbox. As long as you are contacting them, they might not have time to spend with you every week, but you can at least give them an email update of, this is kind of what happened this week. These are the questions I got. This is what seems to be unclear about this assignment. You can just update them weekly via an email. If you get to meet with them, great. If not, just stay in touch with them.
Yeah, that's one thing that the feedback that I get at the end of the semester, that they really appreciate the persistence of the tutors in how are things going, what's happening this next week, what do I need to be aware of, what will you be emphasizing, what would you like me to emphasize, just so that they know that you're interested and you're tuned in to the schedule of events that you set forth in your modules and syllabus. So.
You could check in with them during their office hours as well. I know a lot of faculty are doing like an open coffee hour where they just sit on Zoom. So if you can pop in and just say hi and give them an update, that would work great too.
Yeah, so they're the open office hours. That's a thing that we've had to come to terms with in the district. It used to be they required every faculty to be present on campus physically for their office hours. Well, COVID blew that out of the water. And so everybody has permission to be available via Zoom as they have. And so they should, every single instructor on their syllabus should have something about their regular office hours. And most of them have been doing just an open Zoom time. Coming and seeing you at this time, here I am, sitting here waiting for you. Mr. Gilmore from the math department was really funny with the first spring we did this, and he put a screen background of Hawaii and he put on a Hawaiian shirt and he had a mug with a parasol in it. He said, "I'm here. Where are you?" Because, you know, it's like
Mhm.
you want to entice people to come, and hopefully there are more people who are being creative. I mean, they're probably not always that much fun, but the idea is, that, you know, the instructors enjoy when they see the students too. And the Zooms, I think, are just, it's a really useful thing. So if they
Mhm.
haven't posted, you can always pop in and say hi and just give them a verbal update at that point too. So.
And then this isn't on the PowerPoint, but something that I've done in the past, you can let your instructor know that you can be a second party on some of their student conferences too, if they want you to be. I've had a couple of faculty members where they need to have a one-on-one appointment with the student, and I've been asked to sit in on those. Or if the student is really nervous about meeting with the instructor, you can offer, if you can coordinate a time where all three of you are available, just like we used to do here, where we would walk with the student to the office, and, you know, just as a support system, if they're afraid to talk to their instructor, you know, one-on-one, maybe you can do a Zoom, all three of you. And so you're just there to just kind of be moral support. Or there was some instances where the faculty was uncomfortable with being alone on Zoom with students. So I would sit in on some of the conferences. So you
Well,
could,
you know,
you can
there's
make that
people
option too.
There are, you know, it's amazing the trepidation that people went into with the screen thing and feeling like, oh my God, they're looking in my home, in my house, at me, in my room. That creeps me out. And, you know, there were faculty that was a true thing. So we've all had to just get over that
Mhm.
though, because this is the environment we're in.
Mhm.
And so, you know, anyway, hopefully they've all been desensitized.
Yeah.
But
And then during part of your prep hours, when you're not meeting with the instructor or you have some downtime, just stay as up to date on the course content as possible. Know what's going on during the week. What are the students reading? What are their assignments for that week? Because the more knowledge you have about what's going on in the class, the easier it is for you to help both the instructor and the students you're working with. Always be positive, professional, and prompt in your responses to both the instructor and the students in the class. I'm online all hours. If I'm awake, I'm on. So I check my email probably every 15 minutes. You don't have to be that rabid about it, but try and check your email at least daily.
But the days that you are particularly to be working, having your email open
Mhm.
in the corner, it should just be a habit, as your Zoom. It should just be open in the corner, because you never know when somebody might, oh gee, an hour or two before, need help. And so I want to be able to utilize the time that you have when it's available. So I'm going to try and be more pop any this semester, to just say, hey, and especially with our new tutors, to just pop in and see how things are going. There's no way that the leads can take each person's group and do them together. There's just not going to be enough bodies to do that. So we're just going to have to let our new people learn how to do this as they go.
Sink or swim, people. Sink or
Unfortunately, here, what we used to have was this environment where you could ask somebody right next to you or across the room. And now we don't have that luxury, because online is a different environment. But I'm hoping that because you have team members now, at least you have somebody who can either text or
Yeah.
email or Zoom. And then I'm always here too. I mean, I'm online all day too. I start at about 7 and I don't usually turn my computer off until 10. But I don't like I'd rather not have communicating with students after 8. I mean, that's enough. But I can communicate with you guys. And if there's some other giant important thing institutionally, I usually respond to it. But, you know, it's my job. So that's what I do. And so I would just like you guys to get in the habit also of keeping your windows for your Zoom open and for your email during the times that your box should work. So that
Yeah.
way, if if somebody needs to get a hold of you, you're right there.
And that might actually be something to update on your page that you're creating in Canvas, is what hours you're willing to answer emails. Generally, you don't want to be on emails outside of your work hours. So I normally just tell students that are in my groups or that I've had reoccurring one-on-one appointments with that I would answer their emails outside of my hours, because I know that they're dedicated and they're working, and it's not an emergency 11 o'clock at night, my essay's due in 50 minutes and I haven't started it email. So I don't put that on any of the stuff that's presented to the class, that I will look at emails outside of my hours. But if you have students who are in a group that you feel comfortable saying, hey, yeah, if you have a question, go ahead and email me. And then you can give them the cutoff time. Like I tell students, I don't check my email past 9 p.m. So if they email me prior to that, I'll try and answer it. But that's only for students that I know have been, actively working on their assignments. I don't take those emergency, I've been
Yeah.
procrastinating emails late at night.
No, that is something that you do need to make explicit. So again, it's about learning boundaries, but you know what? You can deal with it as it comes up. But it is good after having some number of semesters of experience to know that having that little disclaimer out there is a useful thing, because then at least people will know ahead of time that, yeah, I'm not gonna hear from you after 9 o'clock. Because, and you don't even have to make it that late. You can make it after 5 o'clock. Or you can make it, you pick the time you're comfortable with, not dealing with anybody,
Yeah.
okay? Because anytime you take more than 15 minutes, that's a visit, and it needs to go into the daily attendance log.
Mhm. We've talked about this before, but if you don't have the Outlook and the Canvas app on your phone, I highly recommend getting that. It's just one more tether to the digital world. So if you not want to do that, that's fine. But I get all of my emails synced to my phone through the Outlook app. So all of my school stuff, I can get notifications and respond on my phone to students. And then same for the Canvas app. You can get your Canvas inboxes. You can check in on the discussion boards through the app. So if you're out and about and you get a quick question or something, you could always answer through your phone too, if you're comfortable doing that. And then the last thing for the embedded tutor kind of tasks, once you establish your groups, and especially now that we're using bookings, this is going to become very important, that you come back into SharePoint and that you split your hours down to be specifically either one-on-ones or groups, because this is what Dr. B is going to use to set up the bookings. So for right now, because you don't really know what your schedule is going to be, you might have just blocked off like a 3-hour chunk that you're just on the clock. Once you get your groups established, you need to come back in here and label them with the designation either one-on-one or group or prep. So that's pretty much it. So once you get your groups done, just make sure you update your calendar and then keep it updated. So like if you have a group that falls apart, we've had lots of groups fall apart over the last few semesters where you get students who enroll and you meet a few times and then they just kind of vanish. And so your group is no longer meeting. You can come in, take it off as a group and maybe turn those times into prep or one-on-one. So just make sure you keep your SharePoint schedule up to date. Any questions before we run to get pizza about embedded tutor stuff or what you need to do? Cool. It is lunchtime then.
Break.
Yep.
Who wants to walk across the street and get the pizza? Woo, somebody say pick me. Who said I can go? Who said that? Look at you, Rich. Did somebody want to go with her? That way she don't have to go by herself? Okay, team Rich, team Hannah. Woo-hoo. All right, cool. Oh. Let's see. Okay, so now during lunch topic, here's the thing. In your or on your notebook that you have there, 2 truths and a lie. You guys can think about this while you're walking over. Your 2 truths and a lie. And then we're gonna see who can guess. Yeah, and then that's where I have my button my button distribution. Good job.
Is it under your name?
It is under my name. Yep. Everybody was so quiet. Guys. We're so quiet. Yeah, it was quite a table full, but we are.
Okay.
Okay, so back up here.
So this short section is going to go over some brief information on one-on-one tutoring practices. Not a lot has changed, but for just a refresher, we will not be using ConferZoom. We've already talked about that. We've talked about where your Zoom links will now be housed, how to set up your links to get your recordings through the zoom.us website, so that you can either share them to students or copy and paste them into your daily attendance and Starfish forms. We've already talked about the importance of keeping your schedule up to date so that Dr. B can keep the bookings page up to date. We've already talked about creating your personal link. Having the most, we did touch on this, but having the most recent version of Zoom is going to be important, just because it does seem to cause issues if you're operating on a different version than like maybe the students who are logging in. And so once you update yours, it's always good if you have a student who doesn't know how to do it to kind of show them as well, because they're obviously having to use Zoom too. So just be familiar with the Zoom settings and how to update yours so that if they need to, you can help them update.
So in the Zoom profile,
Mhm.
is that where the update will show up?
So
'Cause
I-
normally I just get this little notice, a little announcement,
mhm.
updates are available for.
Yeah, and a lot of times it'll pop up when you try and start a meeting. If you don't have the updated version, it'll prompt you to update. Or like I said, if you get the desktop app for either your Mac or your PC, you can always click on the settings gear logo. And then at the bottom, it'll say check for updates or update available, and you can click on that. There isn't actually like a spot on the web version, I don't think, unless it's at the very bottom. Support. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's like a direct link to check for updates, but you can also just Google latest Zoom version and it'll tell you whether you have the latest version or not. So there's a few ways to access it.
Well, now I'm gonna do that right now my own self. Latest Zoom version.
Because it'll tell you what version you're operating about with. If you go, not there, is it reports?
The latest version of Zoom is 5.0. You can update now via our download center.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the website shows you what version you're operating out of, but the desktop launch controller does. So it's just good to have that.
The Zoom plugin for Outlook installs a button on the Microsoft Outlook toolbar to enable you to start or schedule a meeting with one.
So I have that too, but that's not the actual, like, that's if you want to launch meetings from inside your Outlook email, which is kind of useful, but it's not necessary. Yeah.
Okay, so that's not-
But anyways, okay. Oh no.
Sorry.
Now I hit the wrong button on the tab. So we've already talked about that. You can install custom virtual backgrounds if you want to, or the latest version of Zoom comes with a blurred background. So you don't need like a green screen or a super high powered webcam to use it. You can just blur everything around you if you don't want people to see what's going on behind you or into your room. So the latest version gives you that option, because unless you have a fairly decent webcam or newer computer, the virtual backgrounds can be a little wacky, but the blur seems to be fairly good no matter what your camera type is. if you want that privacy. So getting into actually being in a one-on-one appointment, you need to notify the student that being in a one-on-one appointment is going to be recorded as an ST300 non-credit course. So at the end of the semester, if they look into their their transcripts on WebAdvisor, they might see that. I normally only notify the students the first time I meet with them. If they're a reoccurring one-on-one appointment, I don't remind them every time. But just let them know that that is what that is. So if they see it and have a question about it, they'll know what it is. We have 2 daily forms that you need to fill out for your one-on-one appointments. The first one is the RWC daily attendance form, which you can find on the SharePoint homepage. If you scroll down to the quick links section, it's the one here, Fall 21 RWC daily attendance form. So what I personally do is I just open these in a separate tab, and then either after the appointment or during the appointment, if the student's working on something just quietly to themselves, I can start filling this out. Because you need the Zoom link, you can't actually submit this or complete it during your appointment. You have to wait until the link renders, which could be anywhere from 10 minutes to, I've had some that have taken over an hour to render. So just don't forget to go back and do your paperwork and to check for your Zoom link. This form is pretty straightforward. It asks you for your name, the day the appointment was held, the start time of the session. It has a section for you to paste that link in, and then all of the students' information, last name, first name, ID number, their instructor, the type of session. We have several listed here, from face-to-face to Zoom, group, email consultations, or Canvas correspondence. So the difference between the email consultation and the Canvas correspondence is basically just, did you have a back and forth and give feedback through email, through multiple discussions, or did you just take some time to respond to a discussion post or give feedback on Canvas? We're really only counting down to 15 minutes. So if you just answered an email, took 2 minutes to answer a generic question with a student, we're not really counting that as an interaction. But if you had multiple back and forths, or like if they sent you a draft and you spent 10 minutes looking at their draft and giving feedback and then writing back to them, you can mark that as a 15-minute appointment. But if it's just a quick, answer a question here or there, you don't have to fill out a form for that. And then you mark off their class. We've included some of the other, more advanced English classes on here. But if you don't see the class for the student you're working with, just put other. You might have a student from an English 1A class who's in a group or one-on-ones with you, but they need help with their history paper. So even though they're in the English 1A, you would still mark off history, or like if it's, I don't know, a science paper or an abstract or something, you could just mark other for that class. You want to mark off what they're working in.
Could you make an option for ESL? Because last semester, I remember I used to always put other and other.
Oh, okay, yeah, we could
Okay.
modify that.
Just ESL, or just like specific classes?
In general.
Just
Yeah.
ESL.
There's so
Okay.
much there just
Yeah.
under the category of ESL.
Yeah,
I would get a lot of communications.
oh yeah, communications, and
Okay.
there's 5 of those face-to-face with Ms. Faber Peters this fall. She is so ready to be back in person. Oh my goodness.
I took comm online. It was really weird.
Yeah.
It
She said it
was.
wasn't
I
FUN.
did too.
Not FUN.
All right. So
And
yeah,
she
I'll
had
add
common ESL.
common ESL, and then for the other ones, we can just leave it as other. So once you fill that out, hit submit. Personally, what I like to do, because this happened quite often, is you fill out a form and then you have a few more appointments and then you come back and did I fill out a form for that student? And so then we ended up with a lot of duplicate forms. So either I made a spreadsheet for myself where I would just type in all of the appointments I had for the day, and then I would just check off next to them as I completed each form. Or when that got tedious, what I have started doing is I will have both the daily form and Starfish open at the same time, which I have to log into. So that as I filled out the form, I would fill out Starfish at the same time. And then when I submitted the form, I would submit the Starfish, because the Starfish shows on your calendar everything you've submitted. So then I would be able to cross-reference which ones I had done and which ones I hadn't done. But that's how organization works for me. So just come up with a way for yourself to not accidentally forget to record a student appointment or to not record duplicate appointments. Dr. B can easily delete duplicates, but that's just one extra thing that she has to do. So in addition to the daily form, you're going to have to fill out your Starfish attendance as well. And Caitlin, you're not added just yet, or did Samara get them all added? Because we're going to have another little appointment with the new people to get them with their profile and everything.
They got added in a roster, they should have shown up like, so you, Caitlin, should be getting a little invitation. Remember when you get your Starfish, whatever, you have to go in and then set it up.
Mhm.
So, do we have how should we have Caitlin set her? Okay, so here's what we have to have you do. We have to have you watch the video and go through the steps. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we'll just do that all together with the other 5 people who
Yeah.
have to do it. Because it's not the student facing side, it's the instructor side where you're going to be entering in attendance. So essentially Starfish is attendance for the institution. So counselors can see if students have been actively helping themselves or not. And the other one is for our records, and it's how we keep track of the hours that we use for those students. So, but they're 2 forms. And then if you have small groups, there's another form, but we're not talking about that.
Yeah, we're not to
yet.
Betty Bob's yet.
Not that.
And this will make more sense once you actually get access, Caitlin, and this is a refresher just for everyone else. But there's 2 options for entering your appointments in Starfish. You can do it as an appointment. So all one-on-ones will be recorded as appointments. And then all group sessions, even if you only met with 1 student in your group, will still be recorded as a group session. So if you just click on the option you want, it pops up this dialog box. You fill in all of the student information. This also helps because if you forget to ask the student, or maybe you didn't write it down or didn't catch it, you can get their ID number and their email from Starfish. So if you at least remember their name or part of their ID, you can look them up and then record it. It's not going to let me show the other 2 tabs without filling all this in, but the second tab is outcomes, where you again enter the time of the session in and out. And there's a comments box where you'll paste your Zoom link for that session. And then the speed notes is just, you can mark off what you worked on during that appointment. They're fairly generic. So if there's not something like you did something specifically that's not there, don't particularly worry about it. Just mark off what you did from the speed notes section. All of your appointments will show up on your calendar, but you can only register these after the fact. We can't input upcoming appointments because we don't have that accessibility through Starfish. So you have to do these after the fact. And I think it will allow you to enter an appointment either 5 or 10 minutes after you've started it. So like, again, if your student's working on something and you have a little bit of downtime while you're on Zoom with them, you can come in and start doing this. You just can't submit it until you get your Zoom link. Then for the group sessions, this one's a little more complicated because you kind of have to do 2 separate things. The first step is to actually enter the group session on your calendar. So you can name it whatever you want. I tend to do mine as like Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or, group, you can name it whatever, or you can just leave it group session. It doesn't particularly matter. You'll enter the day, the time, the type of appointment it was. If obviously it's a group, it's going to be a Zoom. We're going to have to update all of our things to go back to having a face-to-face option if you are working face-to-face at all. Since we established this after COVID, all of our stuff is currently just remote access, but we'll need to add a face-to-face option back in here, and you can do that through your profile. The reason is, the Reading and Writing Center, and then how many students. So even if you only have a group of 1, you have to enter at least 2. It won't count 1 for some reason. So if you have, 1 or 2 students, just enter 2. If you have more than that, enter the actual number. And this is the number of the people enrolled in that group, not the number of people that showed up that day. So even if you have a group of 5, but only 1 person showed up, you'll still enter 5 here. Because on the second half of this, which I'm actually going to have to fill one out to be able to show the second part. Let's just do 12, 50. Let's go to 4. So once you enter the information and hit submit, you're going to come over to the little 3-line hamburger menu next to where it says Starfish on the upper left-hand corner. And then if you just click on appointments, it's going to show you your actual calendar. And unfortunately, it runs from 12 to 12. So to see our work hours, you have to scroll down a ways. But all of your appointments and your group sessions will appear in this field. So once you've entered the group session, you have to click on the Manage Participants to actually enter the student information. And so on this first part, you'll enter all of the students who are enrolled in the group, whether they showed up that day or not. So you just start typing their name in or their ID number in. It'll pop up, like if I do Hannah Klein Kramer, you'll just hit add, and then it adds that student to that group session. And then when you go to the second tab, Outcomes, you can mark off whether that student showed up or not. So that's why it's important to put every student in, because then their counselor or their instructor can see their attendance and absences from group tutoring. You'll enter the time again. You'll get notifications from Samara and Dr. B if you don't enter the times on both the first page and the second page, because they want all of that information. And then the speed notes section is the same. You'll still paste your Zoom link from that session here in the comments box. And if you had 5 students in that session, you'll paste that Zoom link on all 5 students, not just 1. And the reason for that is each student can come into their Starfish and look at this appointment and access the link. But if you only paste it to like the first student listed, none of the other students will be able to see it. So that's why you have to do it, redundancy, and post it for every single student. I think that's all for Starfish. And the daily attendance form, like I said, find a system for yourself, whether it's you just write down a list in your planner, you do a spreadsheet. You can do it the way I do it, where I have both Starfish and the daily open, and I just do one at a time and then submit, 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 submit. However you can stay organized, the better. But that's it for the one-on-one paperwork. So part of participating in a one-on-one appointment, again, be prompt, polite, and professional during all of your one-on-one appointments. Complete your paperwork, including your timesheets at the end of every day. Just make that a habit so that you don't get to the end of the month and then you have to enter, 25 days worth of time in and out.
Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
Also important, be mindful of your appointment's run time. Students will keep you for as long as they possibly can keep you. So if it's getting close to the end of the session and they're still asking you questions or needing help, just say, hey, it's getting close to the end of our time. Can I answer anything for you now? We can book another session, whatever you need to do to make sure that you actually get them out the time that they're supposed to be out. I will let appointments run over if I say have 2 back-to-back one-on-ones and somebody didn't book that next half hour. I'll let that session run. But if you have back-to-back appointments, don't let them monopolize your time and make you late for your next appointment with your student. If for any reason there are technical issues with Zoom, either you can't log in, your internet goes down. I lost power over the summer for a whole day where I didn't have internet. I had to do all my Zooms through my phone. If you have something happen like that, be sure to email your students so that they know that you're having issues, that you can either make other arrangements. If it's just not possible to meet, let them know that you'll try and schedule a makeup session when you have a chance, or try and figure out another way to have that session, whether it's through your cell phone or even through Canvas correspondence, since you can email through your phone. If the student is having technical issues, try and work them through how to resolve them. And then if it's just not possible to meet, try and schedule makeup sessions with them. If for any reason you have downtime, you didn't have an appointment, people were no-shows, work on other stuff. Either go into your classes and try and be active in class. If you have stuff to do for 72, 72A or paper jam, work on stuff for that. And if you just have nothing to work on, or maybe you need to catch up on your own homework, just clock out and take that time off. Don't just sit on the clock and not have anything to show for it.
But I know you're gonna have stuff to do. I'm gonna give you stuff to do. Once you see the paper jam articles, you'll go, yeah, because you get to pick. The list is already there. If you look in the agenda there's a whole list of topics. So if you would like one of those topics, please take it, circle it. I'm gonna try and get that up on SharePoint. I need to get that done for you guys so that you can go in there and sign up for that thing. Okay. You might want to just double check with everybody else here so that you don't take, or they are in contention.
We'll have fist fights over
Yeah,
articles.
yeah.
Smash mouth.
If anybody wants to take a short break, we're at a midway point, or if there's any questions about one-on-one appointments, feel free to ask. If not, I'm gonna roll through and start the week 1 of tutoring.
What do you think, guys? You want to take a stretch here, or you want to keep going? How you doing in your aptitude? Power through. Power through. How's everybody feeling? You feeling okay? How you doing down there, Jason? Yeah, you doing okay, Monty?
There's only 15 slides left of this
Okay.
part.
Okay, great. Well, then we have my little da-da-da with the students. So, okay.
So actually getting into week 1 of group tutoring. And again, because there's a various number of late start classes, week 1 is going to be different for everybody. It might literally be week 1 next week, or it might be later in the month, depending on your class. So hopefully during the first week, you will have met with your instructor, you will be added to their Canvas, you will establish your presence in the class by posting materials and announcement, however you've arranged with your instructor, and you will start taking enrollment forms from students to create groups. Once you start forming your groups, you'll need to inform each of the students where you've placed them, send them reminders, walk them through how to access your Zoom link if they need a refresher, getting set up to actually start groups. If you get your groups made by the end of week 1, you could start groups in week 2, or you can let the students know that you'll be starting group sessions in week 3 if you are waiting to get more enrollment forms. For the short-term classes, the 6-weekers and the 9-weekers, you should probably get started just as soon as possible because they have a limited number of time before the semester's over for them. But it'll be up to you and depending on the enrollment you get. Make sure that all of the students who have signed up with you are enrolled in the RWC Canvas page. Dr. B is gonna prompt instructors to send their rosters to her to do batch enrollments. So hopefully most of the classes will be enrolled already prior to you meeting with them. If they're not enrolled in the RWC Canvas course, you can walk them through how to self-enroll, or you can just go to the tab in our Canvas page that says people. And because you are listed as a teacher in this course, you can add people directly by clicking add people, SIS ID number, and then just entering their 7-digit ID number. You'll select next, and then it'll send them an invitation that they need to accept to be enrolled. So you can do it either way, make them do it themselves, or you can add them directly through our people tab. Try and get students in the class in general, but specifically the students you've made appointments with, to go through our walkthrough material of how to sign up for a one-on-one appointment, how to enroll in the group. If you're meeting with them as a group, they should have already done the enrollment form. But if you get a student who just emails you and asks to sit in on a group, you can walk them through that, and specifically how to access your Zoom tile on the Tutor Zoom Rooms page so that they can join your sessions. So once you do set up your groups, we've already talked about this, making sure that you go back into the SharePoint calendar and that you rename and split down your blocks into the 1 hour or 30-minute session times, so that it's the most accurate version it can be. And then let Dr. B know each time you add another group, let her know that you have changed your schedule. It might be that you only have 1 or 2 groups for the first few weeks, and then you might get more groups when the first assignment rolls around. So you'll need to update the calendar again and let Dr. B know.
So until I get actual group notices from you guys, you're gonna just be in the appointment book for one-on-one appointments. So anytime that you're on in the schedule, just again, keeping that little outlook button open so you can see if you've got an appointment schedule, and keeping your Zoom in there will make you more readily accessible to people. I think Miss Carly's classes will be the most likely to get on it quicker because it's short, and Anna Lee has been very good about getting people going pretty quickly. So, but there's only so many slots they have available, right? So there may be need for other teachers. Just know that.
And then get all of your paperwork in order. This is a little bit easier now since everything has been digitalized. You can just go into SharePoint and most of it's already there and organized for you. But if you have any other paperwork, say you like to do things by hand, you have stuff printed off, you need to get stuff prepared for your class, make sure you know where all of the paperwork is in SharePoint. We're going to go through most of it in the next few slides so that you know where stuff is at. But you just need to get yourself organized so that you're not, floundering around during a session trying to get stuff together, because you're going to have a lot of forms that you need to give to your students to fill out, as well as quite a few forms that you yourself need to fill out. So just knowing where everything's at is going to make things a lot easier for you. One of those forms for group sessions are the Betty Bobs. They are on the SharePoint site. Everyone has a Betty Bob workbook. And we're going to look at that in a second. And I will show you how to navigate that workbook. And then there's the other forms that you need to fill out as well as have the students fill out. Normally we use the first 2 sessions to complete all of the paperwork. How you do this is more or less up to you. I'm going to show you in the order that I do the forms, but if you choose to do them in a different order or in a different way, that's fine, as long as all of the forms get completed. Hopefully the first week. I've had some students, it takes them a little bit longer, and they might not get it to you until the 2nd or 3rd week, but generally try and get it all done in your first 2 sessions. if you can, or if you choose to, you can email all of the form links to your students at the beginning of the session so that they have all of the links in their email. Like if they don't have a chance to fill it out during the session and you explain it to them, they can fill it out at their convenience before the next appointment. That's sort of a hit or miss thing. I've had good luck with it, and then I've had bad luck with it where students just forget or they fill it out wrong because I wasn't giving them directions continuously. So that's up to you as well. Whether you send it to them ahead of time, or what I started doing to avoid the issue was I would just paste all of the links in the chat on Zoom, and then the students can click on them one at a time as we go through them. But again, how you get them the information is up to you. Some tutors send them to them one at a time and don't let them see the other stuff until it's been explained to them. So just whatever your preference is. This is a snapshot of the Betty Bob. It's pretty much the same as it's been the last two semesters. But just as a refresher, some things have changed with it because of the no longer having English 272. Some of the designations have changed. I recommend that you open the Betty Bob during your first session, and that as the students are working on the forms, you're working on filling out all of the Betty Bob information, because they're right there. You can verify, the information that you need from them. If you choose to wait and do it later, that's up to you as well. Just make sure that you do get all of the information entered correctly and that you verify it with the student at some point in the future. You will have a Betty Bob sheet for each student within that master workbook. We'll talk about the codes when I actually show it. Keep track of attendances as well as absences. So this is important. It's not as important now that we're not doing the 27-hour minimum and trying to get that half credit, because students don't really need to meet an X amount of hours unless they're in a class with an instructor who is offering some sort of incentive for tutoring. Some of the faculty is going to offer a grade boost, extra credits, the opportunity to revise an essay if they meet X amount of hours. So talk to your instructor and find out what incentives they are offering for signing up for tutoring.
We talked about this as the faculty, and there should be a specific statement in each of the syllabi that says something about small group tutoring and how they're doing it, right? So we talked about this at the end of spring semester as a group. And again, tomorrow we'll be going over it one more time to make sure that they're all on the same page. But
yeah, it's because you'll need to provide verification to the instructor that the student met X amount of time to get that incentive.
and that's where we have the BB form, the big one.
Uh-huh.
They'll just get a snapshot of that.
Oh, back to the absences. The reason I was keeping track of absences was, again, because not all students, but some students will try and take advantage of, your time, or say that they had a session with you when they didn't. And so if at any time an instructor asks you to provide verification of an appointment, having an accurate Betty Bob is going to be helpful to you to say, no, see, they were absent that day when they said that they weren't. So just keep your paperwork as accurate as possible. I put I think 42 to 50 rows on here. So if they're meeting with you twice a week or even 3 times a week, you'll have more than enough space on the Betty Bob to keep track of absences as well. So let's look at the Betty Bobs actually. So if you go back to the SharePoint homepage, you can either scroll down to documents, or again, you can click the documents link in the left-hand navigation panel, but you'll see a file folder that says Betty Bobs. Click on that. Make sure you click on the fall 2021 folder, and then you will see everyone has a Betty Bob in here workbook by first name. So make sure that you don't accidentally click on somebody else's. So go to yours. And then the first sheet in the workbook is the master data sheet. And you're not going to do anything with this page. I have it locked, so you actually can't do anything. You can't enter anything. You can't change anything. It's just locked. So don't worry about it. Occasionally check it to see if there's an error or something that says ref with a pound sign, because that means that you have possibly messed something up on one of the other sheets and it has broken the formula that automatically pulls the data. And I'm going to have to go in and figure out what happened and reset your formulas. So don't really worry about it, but just periodically check and see that it's updating to match your Betty Bobs. And then again, if you see an error code or something that says ref, just shoot me an email and let me know that there's an issue with your master sheet. So along the bottom, you'll see it says student, student 2, student 3, student 4. So I've given everyone 30 sheets. I don't think a single one of us in the last 2 years has met with that many students for groups. But if for some reason you hit the mother load and you need more than 30 sheets, let me know and I will add extra sheets for you. To rename a sheet. So go ahead and open it and then simply right click on where it says student and you'll have the option to rename it and to assign a color to it. So if you're a color code fanatic like I am, I assign a different color to each one of my groups so that I can quickly visualize chunks of students per group. If that's not you, don't worry about it. You can just do it however you would like to, but definitely rename it. I generally rename mine with the student's last name, comma, first name, but if you want to be on a first name basis with them or just do their last name, whatever you want to do, you can rename the sheet without breaking the formula to the master. If it's broken once or twice, like I think Annie, you had an issue with this. I had to fix a couple because you drug some of the dropped students to the end. Generally, it should be fine if you rearrange these tabs. So like if you get a student who drops out of a group or moves to a different group, it shouldn't mess anything up to just drag the student to a different section because the formula should still be tied specifically to that sheet. But if again, if you get that error code, just let me know and I'll go in and update the formula to fix it. So on the actual Betty Bob, you need to fill in your name and ID number at the top. Then you'll have all of the students' information, last name, first name, ID, their email, the day and time that they meet with you in the group, their instructor's name, their course code, course name. We need this now for the registrar's office. We didn't used to have to put the course name, but you need to put the course name now. And then if there is a specific day and time their class is meeting, you can enter that or just write asynchronous if it's an online class that has no sessions. The enrollment date is the date that they submitted the form. If they officially drop, you can go ahead and put the drop date, but if they just stop showing, we're not going in and having the registrar's office officially drop them anymore. I don't think. We didn't do it this last semester. So the drop date's not as important, but
It's open, exit, open,
mhm,
open entry, open exit. So
Yeah.
basically they just, what we turn in at the end of the semester are just the list of dates that they came.
mhm.
And then we're given credit for the hours that we attended. So it's very different. It's actually less complicated than
No.
it used to be, but
The total number of hours completed, we're still going to fill this out for our data, but you'll just need to go in and count up the number of attended sessions. Whether they've been enrolled in group tutoring or not is a yes or no question now versus a ST 300 or English 272, since we're not keeping track of that anymore. And then I have check boxes here that are color coded to all of the forms, so you can keep track of the forms as the students complete them. As far as filling in the Betty Bob, you'll just enter the date of the session, what the 2T worked on. If you have anything planned for the next session, or you need to remind yourself of what you're gonna do the next time, you can use this box here. I started using this column to keep track of whether I filled out the Starfish and daily or not. So once I filled out those 2 forms in this box on the Betty Bob, I would just put Starfish/daily to know that I had filled it out for that session. Because generally I can do the forms between appointments, but I generally don't have time to catch up all the Betty Bobs between appointments. So that's just how I kept track, but it's up to you. And then the codes, there's space for 6, but really you can stop at 3 if you want to. Just the more data we have, the better. So if you want to fill out 6, that's great.
And I just interject here that I would really like it if you did this with them at the end. I mean, they don't have it, but you can share your screen. Just do it with them. And then it's like one of those meta processing things. So what did we work on today? Let's just recap. What did we work on? We worked a little bit on grammar. We worked on topic sentences. We worked on comprehension, you know, whatever it was, so that they know leaving what it was they worked on. So.
And so, yeah, the
those are
list of
choices
what
right down
the
there.
list of what you can pick from is here in the middle of the form. So if you worked on free writing, you'll just put a 1 in the box, et cetera, et cetera. So it used to be that we would have to count these up by hand, but I have these boxes linked to automatically tally. So you don't need to count them
So you don't have to
anymore.
do that anymore.
I used to make my group members do it.
Yeah, it's tedious. It was so tedious.
And so once we either come to the end of the semester, or your shorter term classes start to end, you can look at your master data sheet. And so all of the information from the Betty Bob is going to automatically get sucked into this master sheet for you. You don't need to go in and hand write out your master sheet anymore. So at the end of the semester, when Dr. B needs to compile all of the information, it will already be here on your master page. All you'll have to do is highlight and copy the number of students you had, hit copy, go to her sheet and hit paste, and you're done.
I did not do that last semester.
I had to do it for you. Yes, people did. I mean, we had some success. Let's just put it that way. Some success. So we're gonna hope to get a higher number of successes. It just reduces our time at the end with all the record keeping. It's so tedious. You know, I mean, the number of visits we have, the number of students we deal with, it's just tedious. So,
And again, at any time during the semester, if you see an error code, just let me know. I kind of spot check throughout the semester. And then when Dr. B does the midterm reflections and appointments with us, she'll look through your Betty Bob. And if she notices that there's an issue or a broken formula or something, she'll let me know and I can go in and fix the issue before the end of the semester. But for the most part, it went pretty smooth this last semester and there weren't a whole lot of issues. So hopefully that's the case again this semester. So the next form that is for your 2T to fill out is the small group 2T agreement. And the links for all of these forms, if you want to grab them and either paste them into a chat in your first Zoom for your student, or if you want to put them all on a document that you can forward to your student or drop them in an email, whatever you want to do, they are located at the bottom of the home screen on SharePoint. So I have them in order. Starts with the enrollment form, but then it goes the agreement, the personal assessment, the learning assessment, the writing sample, and then the learning styles report that we fill out. So anytime you need to grab one of these links, you can just come onto SharePoint and copy and paste it out. The same goes for the self-enrollment links. They're located here in the sidebar on the home site as well. So if you get a student who asks how to enroll in like maybe the Learning Center or the Math Center or the library, you can just copy and paste the links for those from here as well. But where'd it go? Did it not open? It didn't open. The 2T agreement is pretty much the same as it's been. The only change has to do with the English 272. So now it just asks if they've ever been in tutoring. And that's just for our records to see if we're having reoccurring students. The date of enrollment, some students can get confused about this and put like the date they enrolled in their class. You want the date of the enrollment form that they filled out. So you can always go back and check either the receipt they forwarded to you or the information Dr. B forwards to you from their enrollment form to get that date if they don't remember when they filled out the form. The time your group meets, their student ID, their last name, first name, instructor, class, course code, and then they'll select you as their tutor. If they don't,
On that phone, is there the pair of dates that they need, or just, why do we have just the time?
it's,
Oh, you guys wait there, okay. sorry.
no, that's the date of enrollment
Oh my God,
form.
We don't have one that says the Monday, were they Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday? I don't know. Maybe we don't really need that. I guess the time is important because we're gonna be looking at, or did we have more morning, more afternoon, or something?
I can add a section for date, Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday.
Well, maybe we should, just because we
Okay.
can see what the time, you know, some semesters you get way more people who want even Thursday or Wednesday, I don't know. It will just help in future trying to. We're just 38 hours short of tutor help this semester because we lost people.
I think I'll do it as individual check boxes for the 5 days a week because Annalee had a couple of those weird groups that met like Tuesday, Friday,
Yeah.
or Monday, Thursday. So I'll just do check boxes and you can check off the 2 days that they met with you. Since she seems to do a lot of
Yeah.
unique things.
unusual, yeah. Well, you know, it's all about accommodating the returning students.
Mhm. I'm not going to read through each of these points, but you should definitely go on, open the form and read through the points yourself because you're going to have to read this off to your students. And if they have questions about what it means or what it's asking them for, you should have an understanding of what it's saying as well.
It's
So-
going to keep them accountable, right? I mean, we don't have a credit to hang over their head anymore, even if that ever was a motivating factor, but this is them basically saying they're gonna be good citizens while they're here and they're gonna utilize services productively, so it's just to make it out loud so that they have been informed, right? Informed consent.
So once they fill it out, they'll type their name at the bottom as their digital signature and click submit. So again, not super important. I'm just kind of OCD about paperwork. I would show students how to forward the receipts to me, and I would require them to forward it to me. Because a lot of times you'll get students like, oh yeah, I filled that out. And then at the end of the semester, Dr. B goes through the data and no, they didn't. So if you're not actually watching them like with their screen shared, which if you have multiple students, there's no way to watch all of them simultaneously. I would require that they would forward me the receipt or I would keep bugging them until they did it. Because otherwise they could just be like, oh yeah, I did it and submitted it. And then you get to the end of the semester and they actually didn't do it. So I make them forward it to me so I can mark it off on their Betty Bob. And if it becomes an issue and I have to ask several times, I have no qualms with guilt tripping them and saying that, you know, my coordinator said I need to have all of my paperwork in order or I'm not gonna. So yeah, if it comes to it, you can guilt trip them and be like, you know, this is my job. I have to have this paperwork. So that's the agreement. Just go through it with them. I normally just have them open it. I read through all of the instructions, they fill it out and submit it, and then we move on to the next form. Which is the writing sample. So I do this one second, because you have to time them and I want to make sure that they actually do it while they're on Zoom with me, and also because it's one of the required forms from the state. So with the writing sample, when we were in person, it was easier to do this, to force them to write for the full 10 minutes and make sure that they got a decent chunk of writing. Now that we've gone with the digital one, that's a little harder to monitor, but I've included here in like yelling bold text that they should have roughly 3 short paragraphs by the time that they're done. like 5 sentences each, Hannah, not like a, you know, full essay.
And it is amazing how some people, it's like squeezing every syllable out of their pinkies, you get 5 sentences. And if that's what they give you, that's what they give you in 10 minutes, right? But really, can you just do 10 minutes and tell everybody that it's for your own good and it's a baseline and we need to see where students are. It's just a requirement.
And I go a step further in my explanation and tell them that they will be required to do a timed essay in their course of 1 to 5 pages, depending on the instructor. And if they can't manage at least a paragraph's worth in 10 minutes, then they're underprepared for their timed essay. So that kind of prompts them to that kind of prompts them to do a little bit better with trying
Well, it just
to
you know, it ties it back into the real world, right? Like the
Mhm.
reason you're doing this is really so you go past your class,
Mhm.
you know.
It just asks 3 simple questions. How did you learn to read and write? Did you have a favorite book as a child? And how do you feel about your current reading and writing skills? So again, you're not going to be watching them write this. I mean, you'll get the receipt and you'll be able to see their responses, but just try and get them to write for the full 10 minutes.
So we do get the receipt.
Mhm.
And to get the
How does
receipt
that happen?
one more time, Laura. one
Sorry.
So, no, it's fine. So when the student submits, they will get a receipt that they completed the form. I have all of the forms set up to email the student that they completed it. Then they have to go into their email and forward it to you. So, and for some reason, like, I mean, I've been using email a lot longer, but for some reason, students seem to not really get that.
Yeah.
So if you have to show them, share your screen with your email and just show them that to forward a receipt, you just click that forward arrow that says forward. And then they just type in your email and hit send. So I normally walk them through that before we start filling out the paperwork so that they can send it to me. And then again, because I'm a fanatic for paperwork, like, let's see, like I have like 1,000 emails in my saved. I have an actual enrollment forms and paperwork file in my email, so I can keep all of the forms. But once you get the form, this is what it looks like. This is the receipt that they forward it to you. So you can see all of their responses. And then because I don't trust the internet, I print all of these documents to PDF and I have them backed up on my computer. So you don't have to go that crazy, but at least have it so you can mark it off and know that they did it. So after the agreement and the writing sample, I was thinking I'll just create another form for the end of semester writing sample.
Sure.
Since we've kind of not
Yeah.
done it the last 2 semesters
Yeah, well,
consistently.
You know, I'm not gonna beg COVID. People
Yeah.
are exhausted, so, but the whole idea of the tutoring experience is you have a pre and a post, right? And the student gets to see that for themselves. So not only are you supposed to do a post writing sample, you're supposed to do that little inventory of self, what you're aware of with your grammar and your knowledge of English and so forth. I mean, you're supposed to take that as a post as well. And we don't do it, but it's really meant for them to just feel a little more, oh, I know stuff now that I didn't know before, you know? And it helps them go into the next semester feeling a little more confident, you know?
Yeah. So there, by the end of the semester, there might be an additional form to do the end of semester writing
We'll
sample.
see how crazy it gets.
Yeah.
And how much enrollment they're gonna get.
So then next I have them do the personal assessment, which just gauges,
Their current level of knowledge, right?
yeah, and I need to open it in here because I can't see the other part. So I explain this one as just being an assessment of their current knowledge about certain aspects of writing. It has all of the general information in the first part, like always, and then part 2 has to do with grammar and usage. And then I explain to them I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but if they have absolutely no idea what it's asking, they should select one. If they know for sure what it's asking, they can select 5 or make a judgment across the middle. I always tell students that they need to be honest with themselves foremost, and then be honest on this form, because I'm going to take their results and I'm going to look at what we need to work on during the semester. So if they're shy and they just start going down the board and marking 4 on everything because they don't want to look like they don't know something, that's really detrimental to them, because then you're not going to work on that thing during the semester. So I just encourage them to, you know, be honest. They've come to tutoring to get help. I need to know what areas they need help on to make it the most effective semester possible. So encourage them to just be honest. And if they don't know something, then that's fine. And that's why they're here. The third section has to do with the writing process, understanding what prompts are, how to do research papers, you know, everything from there. And then the 4th part is parts of an essay. And then part 5 has to do with formatting. So of all of the forms, this is probably the one I spend the most time looking at for each of my students to kind of see where they're at and what I'm going to need to focus on throughout the semester. And again, technically we should do one at the beginning and at the end. I did that for a handful of students this last semester, but it kind of
Yeah.
was hit or miss.
Yeah, and again, I just have to say, you know, we have assimilated so much in a short period of time, and to have all of this stuff completely digitized is remarkable. But, you know, your stamina for new content is, you know, it gets tiring, I get it. And I know online instruction is hard for a lot of people anyway, so we have been, I think, fairly generous in all that. Knowing that sometimes enough is enough. So if you don't get it, you don't get it. But
Yeah. And then the final form that I go over with the students, and generally speaking, I have enough time in my first session to do those first 3 forms and explain the instructions for this one. If I feel like the students are pretty on top of things, I will tell them to fill this out as homework prior to our next appointment. But if it's not the end of the world, if they don't get it done, we'll take time at the first part of the second session to finish this one. But I at least take the time to explain the reason behind it and the instructions for it. So if they choose to do it on their own, they know what they're doing. We've all done this. So you know what the learning assessment is, what it's asking for, and roughly how long it takes, so you can explain it to the students. The form itself has not changed. We're still using that online personality assessment. And then again, have the students forward the receipt to you so that you can go on and look at their results. Because once you look at their, once you get that receipt from them, you then have a form to fill out. On the Betty Bobs we used to have when we were face-to-face, there was a section across the top of the Betty Bobs where we would put in all of the learning styles and preferences for the MBTI. We don't have that anymore on the Betty Bobs, so I created a form that does the same thing. So once you get the receipt from the student's learning style report, you can come in and fill out this form. And really, this is just data collection for us to see the types of students that we're getting. And so you'll fill in your email. No, you'll fill in the student's email, their ID, their last name, their first name. And then I took the time to input all of the possible answers that come back on their receipts. So you just need to find the one that they are and click the checkbox. And that's for all 5 of the sections that they get results for. The only one that you should have multiple check boxes for is the intelligences section, and the results give you the top 3. So just mark off the top 3 for the student and then click submit. And then the student will get the receipt of their results and Dr. B will have the data. We've already gone over the daily attendance form. So that one's already done. And we've already gone over Starfish. We're going to have a refresher appointment with the new tutors, probably either Friday, like the first, we're doing the meeting this Friday.
We're doing the meeting this Friday, but mostly to just touch bases and to make sure everybody's schedule is correct. And
Okay.
they've all done their page that will be going out to the instructors. We want to make sure all of those pages are good.
Mhm.
I don't know that.
I know you only have like a small snippet of
I
time
have a
between.
snippet of time and you have a snippet of time, so we are both, I have workshops that are scheduled on Friday.
I'm free after the meeting, so like I could stay on and help people finish their pages or whatever.
Yeah. And I think the Starfish Jazz, until we get them to walk through
Yeah.
it, we'll probably have to figure out a time when we all, we might have to wait until the following Friday.
Yeah.
Because by that time, nobody's gonna have, they probably aren't gonna have enter anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll probably just do the Starfish thing the following Friday.
Okay.
Post the meeting.
Maybe Friday, this Friday, we can just say like, if you do have an appointment, just write it down and then we can always back enter it in Starfish at a later date.
And then they can also watch
The Samaras.
Samaras.
Yeah. Last thoughts about week 1 and paperwork. Again, prompt, polite, professional. Make sure you're doing all of your paperwork. I recommend daily, but there have been days where it's like 8:30 at night and I'm not going to do my paperwork. So I write down who I still need to do paperwork for and I do it the next morning. But just stay on top of it so that you don't end up at the end of the week and suddenly you have like 25 forms to fill out, because that is a nightmare. Yeah.
To want to do it.
Well, to want to do it and to do it accurately. We've already talked about being aware of your runtime. Don't overbook or double book yourself. If there's issues with Zoom, take time to work that out. Again, we're going to be accepting enrollment forms all semester. So if you get a student who joins late, just make sure that you get that paperwork done at some point. Usually students who join late, it's right before an essay is due and they're in like emergency mode. And so I don't force them to do the paperwork if the essay is taking priority. I'll work with them, get their work done, get the essay turned in. And then when they have downtime, we'll do the paperwork. Just don't forget to go back and do it with them. If you have students who want to join on an intermittent basis, I have allowed that, where I'll be hosting a group and I'll have a student just drop in and I'll log them in as a one-on-one simultaneously with my group. The only issue with that is Starfish doesn't allow that. You can't have a double booking in Starfish. So for that particular day, I will enter them just in the group. But you can fill out the daily attendance form for us with them as a one-on-one and the other students in the group as a group. If you, we already talked about that.
How are we gonna do that now? We don't have like the class for, because before we would do like English 272 and then like it was like a one-on-one in there.
Mhm.
With the IS.
So because 272 doesn't exist anymore, everyone's an ST300. So there is no designation anymore. So whether they're a one-on-one, a group, a new student, a returning student, everyone's the same designation. So you don't need to mark off who's what or the other. It's where you select the difference, and it logged me out, is in the type of meeting section on Starfish, we'll have a one-on-one or a group selector there.
Okay, so it wouldn't matter if like you have like a one-on-one in the group. It just.
No. Yeah, everyone's the same now. And then that brings us to our last 2 slides. So daily responsibilities. Be present for all of your scheduled appointments. Don't flake out and forget to log in be a no-show to your own appointment. That would be terrible.
Really embarrassing to have to apologize for, I'll tell you that. Don't really do that.
I've gone so far as to set up reoccurring reminders in my Outlook calendar. I set up reminders in my personal calendar. I have stuff set up in my phone. Do whatever you need to do to keep yourself on track and on schedule. That goes for clocking in and out as well. As Hannah puts her head down.
It's okay, I can correct them. It's
Yes.
okay, but we'd like to have fewer to correct.
So, and it happens to everyone. Like I'll get busy answering emails and just totally flake on clocking in, or I'll be filling out paperwork and I'll forget to clock out on time. So if you have that issue, record it on the Excel timesheet that's in SharePoint, and then let Dr. B know that there's an error on your time clock plus, which we're going to look at in just a second. But try and do all your paperwork daily. Like I said, if that's possible, I'll generally try and get it all done. But if I have a late afternoon appointment and Zoom's taking a long time to render, I'm not going to come back at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night and do that day's paperwork. I'll wait until the next morning, but just make sure that you stay organized enough to go back and do it. Make sure you're staying up to task with your 72A assignments. Dr. B has that Canvas put together, so you should have an idea of your assignments and what's upcoming.
They aren't published yet. They will be. It's my goal.
And then keep up with your paper jams. Everyone did a pretty awesome job this last semester. Now that we've switched to Canva, all of the paper jams came together pretty much on time and were well done. So if you have downtime, work on your paper jams. Check in with your classes. I recommend daily, just because, you know, if an instructor posts corrections or updates or anything, you need to know what's going on in that class. So I always try and check in on Canvas in the morning and then again in the afternoon. You can set your Canvas notifications how you prefer them. I got really tired of the thousands of notifications I was getting, so that's why I check in twice a day, because I turned all my notifications off. So that's up to you. Try and check and answer emails daily. We don't want to leave students sitting in your inbox for any longer than absolutely necessary. That goes for instructor emails as well. I try and get back to instructors as soon as I can. And then if you still have downtime and you've gone through all of these bullet points, let Dr. B know that you need something to keep you busy.
I will.
We will be having our mandatory tutoring meetings on Friday. They'll be at 12 via Zoom. There's a number of us who are attending classes off campus at different campuses. So, you know, if you can't attend the session, check in with Dr. B, do your report out, find out what was going on, go on SharePoint and look at the agenda. Treat it like a class and just make sure that you're up to date with what happened at the meeting if you couldn't attend.
Well, I'll probably be nagging in you anyway, because if there's something to do with a procedural change or an event that we need to know about, I will get in touch with you. But yeah, please don't treat SharePoint like videos you don't watch in other classes. This makes us very sad. So usually we pull up the SharePoint agenda while we're on it, and if I need to start recording those again, I stopped doing that, but I could always do that too and send out links for that for people who might not be able to attend.
Yeah. And then also check in with your instructors weekly. We touched on this already, of just providing them with an update, stuff that you talked about with students during the week. If there were reoccurring questions from multiple students, that means that something in the course or something in the lecture might not have been clear enough. So you can let the instructor know that you got quite a few questions about certain things, or just ask them to give you an update of like what you should be working on or how you can best be serving their students. Make sure your time clock plus boxes are checked for the week. Do it daily, for sure, weekly.
There are still people gathered among us who do not check their boxes. And I still hear from Dr. Davis. So-and-so is having a problem checking off their boxes. Do you know what their problem might be? And I always plead, COVID has changed everything. And, you know, it's worked for a while, but just try and wait for me.
Along with Time Clock Plus, make sure that your Excel timesheet is filled out. And then at the end of every week, make sure that your calendar is still accurate. So that's the end of the slideshow. We're gonna look at Time Clock Plus really quick, and then the timesheets. So all of the timesheets are on SharePoint under Documents. They are in the Schedules and Timesheets. You want to make sure that you're in the Fall 21 timesheets folder and that you're in the correct month.
I'm taking a temperature of the room. Do we need to stretch? Do we need to stand up and stretch? Okay.
Timesheets.
Okay.
So again, everyone has a tab along the bottom, just like all of our other shared workbooks. So the timesheets, you have your name, the date. I've already input the month on all of them, so you don't need to worry about that. And then we're really not doing budget codes anymore because it's all funding from the same pot now. So I might actually just delete that square off of these going forward. The days, we had some tutors who were confused about how that worked. That means that's the day of the month. So if it's the 1st, you would put it on the 1st rather than typing in the date. Well, no, what happened was like, rather than counting them as days, they just did all of their hours at the top and they didn't like skip the weekends or days that they didn't work. And they just ran them all at the top, and I went through and spaced them all out so that it would make more sense for you when you did them at the end of the month. So yeah, that's the day of the month. You have your clock in time and your clock out time. I've allowed for 2 clock ins and clock outs per day. But if you have your day broken up into smaller chunks, you can always add another row to this Excel sheet by clicking on the actual number of the row on the very left. You right click and you hit insert row, and that will give you an additional row for that day. So if for some reason you do need to clock in and out 3 times, like you have breaks between classes or whatever, you can add as many extra rows to each day as you need. Make sure you are on your tab, and if you want to customize the color of your tab, just click on your sheet, right click on your name, and then you can select a tab color so that you can identify yours a little bit easier if you want to. The hours are automatically set to auto total, but that means that rather than entering like 3H5M, you need to enter your hours as a decimal by the 15-minute point. So you'll have a 0.25 if you're 15 minutes in, a 0.5 if you're 30, and a 0.75 if you're 45 in. Otherwise, the total's not going to work and it's not going to match your Time Clock Plus, and then there's discrepancy issues. So make sure that you're doing your decimal points correctly, because Time Clock Plus auto rounds to either the back 15 or the forward 15. So make sure that you double check what it actually logged you as so that this matches Time Clock Plus.
And this is my backup sheet for you guys. So like if there's a day that you miss and you didn't log in, completely spaced it, of course you'll email me to tell me that you did that. And I try and fix them immediately, but I want to make sure that I have record of that. So if you did forget to log in, please just write on the side, oh no, I forgot, you know, and that helps.
Yeah,
me a
I'll
lot.
generally highlight in like the highlighter yellow a time that I forgot to clock in and out, and then I'll just add a little note to the side that I missed those hours. Or if you work overage hours, like you're past your 8 hours a day, I just created a block of cells on the side where I would keep a running total of my averages or overages. And you want to set it up this exact same way. So like, actually I would just like copy and paste these rows over here. And then I would keep track of my overage hours, and then Dr. B can see those and add them in on, like, maybe you didn't work as many hours one week, she can add them there, or if there's a holiday or something. And then if you have a like major surplus of overage hours, you just copy and paste whatever's left onto the next month's timesheet so that you have a rollover until they're completely exhausted and out.
That way I can keep track as well. So I try to stay on top of it. But for people who are already working at maximum 19 hours, there's not a lot of wiggle room. So I don't mind if you work more, but you do have to keep track of it and keep carrying it forward. I will add in what I can as we go. If, for example, you miss a day, you have to be off for a day, I can go ahead and just count that in and come off of the overage. But, you know, it's only been it's an issue once in a while for a few people. But again, I want to make sure you guys get paid for the hours you do work. So I would rather just do it that way. And generally over the Christmas break, that's when I end up making up for people who are already working pretty long hours. If there's extra time, that's when we'll just get an extra paycheck.
Yeah.
You'll have leftover.
I'll also, like, just for my own purposes, like if I do have an overage, like the next day I work, or if I don't work the next day, I'll just go in and clock in for that little bit and it'll register it, and then I'll take it off the overages list so that she doesn't have to enter it. But that's just to keep track. So like if you are working max hours and we have a special training or the Friday meetings, or we do one of the conferences, you can keep track of those if it puts you over your 19 a week. So I updated this before Monday's session. So the Time Clock Plus presentation that's on the tutor training materials page reflects the new Time Clock Plus because they changed it at the end of last semester. So if you need a refresher on what the new one looks like, you can go through this PowerPoint. There's no audio or anything. It's just slides showing you what's what. But the quick link, so if you haven't accessed it in a while, I don't remember when they changed it last semester or if it was at the start of the summer.
I think it was at this.
It was like midway
I
through
was
last-
It was midway. Okay, so everyone
Yeah.
should know that the old link no longer works. You have to use this new link that's on the SharePoint site. Once you open it, this is the standard home screen. Once you enter your ID number, you can either clock in and out, go on break, or I generally just go to dashboard. And you can do all of the same things here. But when you need to check off your boxes or verify that your timesheet matches the Time Clock Plus timesheet, you want to go to view and then hours, and that will show you that week's timesheet. So again, for your timesheet Excel, you want to make sure that you're doing what it registered you as the time in and time out, because you can see that it rounded up for me from the actual time I clocked in to the next 15-minute increment. And so to make sure that both are accurate, you want to make sure that you're looking at what it registered you as, because it'll go so far as to round up almost a whole 10 minutes sometimes. So, and then to check off your boxes, you just mark off the box. Again, try and do those daily or weekly. And then if you had any times or days that you forgot to clock in or out for, and Dr. B has to enter those manually, you need to go back into Time Clock Plus and check those boxes off too after she gets them entered at the end of the month. Otherwise you won't get paid for those. There is kind of a cheat for if you forgot to clock in or clock out. So let's say I forgot to clock in this morning at 10. I can just hit clock out. It'll tell me I forgot to clock in. If I hit continue, it'll tell me again, continue, and then you can enter the time that you were supposed to have clocked in. This only works if you remember to do the clock out within the 5-hour window, because you're only allowed to work 5 hours at a time. without a break in between. So if you remember in that window, you can do it that way. And if you forget to clock out, you can do the same process by clicking clock in, and then it'll tell you, hey, you forgot to clock out, and then you can enter the time that you were supposed to have clocked out.
And you know, even when you do that, in my log, it still reflects missed in clock in or clock out. So I still have to go in and edit it so that then it doesn't flag the dean. You see, there's all these stupid levels of people looking at boxes. So you have to clear out all of that stuff. So even if you do that, I still have to fix it. So just know, just let me know. And then
It's not secret.
Oh, ta-da-da. Okay, dun, 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 dun. We're gonna shift gears a little bit. Yeah, Laura, look excited. Look excited. Okay, this is also part of your little package down here. Small group tutoring in the RWC. Okay, so this is where we're going to go into the actual tutoring part, not all the record keeping, all the meta behind the scenes stuff. So we're talking about the tutoring process, right? So I gave you guys a copy of that just for refreshers, but I did it. You don't have a copy? Oh, my, sorry. Here, I have that. Thank you. Sure. Does everybody else have it? Okay. All right. So basically, for people who are not familiar, but we're just going to review it. So since Kitten's new, this is new to you, but although you've been at tutors, I've been at 2T, so you kind of know what it's like on the other side. So basically what we're trying to do when we work with groups is to have this incorporated group of one experienced person who's the tutor, and then the 3 people who need help. They come in twice a week for support to further develop their writing skills. And when it was first started, we all tried to make sure that the tutor was paired up with the class and the instructor. But over the years, it got harder and harder to do that because of logistics and student schedules. So lots of the groups were super heterogeneous. They were not the same. They were not the same instructor. The students were working at different assignments. It was very challenging. This time through, since COVID, since we have you guys all embedded, you are pretty much working with the students that are from that particular instructor. So you know the assignments, you know the course that you're working with, what they're supposed to be doing. So it's sort of simplified a bit, I think, in terms of how we help them, because we can be more specific and more focused. But basically just, 1, 2, 3, peer tutors, that's what we're doing in here. That means you are another student helping other students. So it's not a professional degree human being. It's somebody in the trenches just like them. So it's easier to relate to because you have the same life experiences, and you can be more empathetic because you know what it's like to be a student, right? And we're doing it because we want to help people become their best writer selves. And how do we do it? Because we're guided by the side. I like that phrase. And being a role model, right? And a role model, not just the reading and writing skills, but also how to be a student. How to be a good student. You guys wouldn't be in here if you hadn't been recommended by your instructors and the tutors who work with you, because we know you have the skills, personality, and the commitment to be a good student. So they're going to look at you and know, oh, this is why how you be successful, because you're organized and on top of your own. Okay, boom. Next one. So this is a reminder again about our own unique challenges and strengths as learners. So whenever you're working with anybody, whether it's a one-on-one situation or in a group, you just have to constantly remind yourself that we're all unique, right? You don't ever want to assume a person that's coming to meet with you learns just exactly like you do. It may be that they do, but it's just as likely they don't, because we're all pretty unique combinations of how we process things, which is why I have everybody do that styles before we get started with anything. So you know what it means to be a visual learner or auditory learner or a kinesthetic learner. you know, or somebody for whom reading and writing combined is a great strategy. So it's important for you to kind of get a gauge on the people that you're working with. Once you understand your own style, you have to recognize that there are other ways into the territory. So even though you might be somebody who learns really well by having things thoroughly explained, maybe that person, it's like Charlie Brown, wah, 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 right? It does not make sense to them. So you have to figure other ways out. You have to figure out how to show them things, how to break it down, how to use color and writing and all kinds of other ways to maybe get the information across. So up here, one of the things that I think is helpful is to just ask the students, like, well, when you're in a situation where you have to learn something, what is it that helps you the most? When was the last time you learned something new and what made it fun for you? Why was it fun? And as they describe that, that gives you kind of a little bit of insight into maybe what makes learning fun for them. So it might be that they, I don't know, they learned, what is something, they learned how to ride a motorcycle. Aha, Laura, they learned how to ride a motorcycle. Why was that so fun for you? Because they like being outside and they like the feeling of moving through the air. They like driving, they like seeing things. I mean, I don't know why people like motorcycles. I'm a big chicken. I don't have enough adrenaline in one finger to do any of that. But you know,
Need for speed and
Need-
adrenaline junkie.
yeah, okay. So there you go. So then you would know that possibly Laura Hannon might have a really strong visual, a big kinesthetic kind of component to her.
That is my
style.
number one.
Mhm. Because she likes to feel things in her body. And so it's kind of hard to make learning, reading and writing an in your body experience, but just understanding, even if it's just writing, you know, the physical act of writing or taking sticky notes and or using the keyboard while you're on Zoom and writing on using the keyboard can also be like a kinesthetic anchor. But the idea is to try and have them tell you what it is that makes learning easy. And by doing that, by asking them, when was the last time you learned something new? You know, did you enjoy it or didn't you enjoy it? Ask them why. And then maybe have a little better understanding about what doesn't work for them versus what does. And I think we get better at this just over time. The more we practice, the more people we meet, I think it just gets easier. It's, you know, it's challenging to think about yourself as a learner and to step back from the task itself to figure out how you are actually processing it, you know. But that is something that we need to know how to do ourselves to be able to help other people. If you don't understand your own instrument, you're not going to help other people figure out theirs, right? So we have them take that inventory in that first couple of days just so that they get a more of a sense, you know, that idea of what it is that makes me a learner. How are the channels that are the strongest for me? How can I make those work for me for the best? And how can you help them that way, right? So the thing is, even though we go through these assessments and they give us our profiles of, you know, higher visual, higher kinesthetic, higher auditory, etc. The thing is, the more you can make an experience multimodal, like see it, say it, feel it, read it, write it, the more you can do all of those things, the more likely it is you're going to get into through short-term to long-term memory. So we just do better when we have more channels, you know, of information, which is kind of hard when you're sitting on a Zoom screen, right? Because you're kind of in this two-dimensional environment. But you got to do the best you can with making suggestions. I mean, one of the things when we're in the center that I like having colored pens and paper. I like having sticky notes around. I like having fidget cubes for people. I mean, I like having some of those things right there for them to use while we're working, but it's harder to do that when you're on the Zoom screen. But you can still suggest those. And I think any strategies that work for you that you've identified as a particular channel, then suggest it. I mean, we have tons of people who love the visual. So the color thing, it's a big deal. Like Laura has already shown us pretty clearly, the reason why the hub is so attractive is because she's very visual. So she really gets color and pattern and order, you know, on visual order. And it makes it easier for people to follow generally, you know? So anyway, your strategies become helpful to other people. Okay, yeah, so as much as we recognize the differences, we also have to go back to the fact that we all have a lot in common too, right? We're all here in college trying to get through this set of experiences that will get us out of here on the next chapter of our life, right? So the goal is for everybody the same, to just maximize your potential and help you to pass your courses in the, the best way that you can. So how do we do it? By the following practices. And you'll probably have remembered this, the tutoring cycle. Some of you have probably seen this before. It used to be a graphic in our handbook way back when, but I don't think we've included it for a while. I don't think so. It's been a while. But it's a good visual because it just shows you kind of the cycle of interpersonal interaction. How do we get through this time for the person we're working with? And it doesn't matter whether it's a group or an individual, it's still the same thing. You still have to greet the person. You have to identify the task. You have to figure out what the component parts are. You have to figure out your strategies for helping them do that, agree on what you're going to do for that session, commence, and then you want to have the students tell you as you're going along what they're doing, making sure they're on task and they've figured out it and they're feeling like, yeah, I get what I'm doing. And then by the time you get to the end, you want them to be able to tell you back in their words, like, what did you work on today? You feel like you made progress with what you came in for? Yeah, so this is where it works really well to read Betty Bob form and just check out the stuff that you worked on. So it's a nice little cycle to just remember that. You want to have started a session. You want to have figured out what's the presenting task, breaking it down, figuring out how you're going to approach it in a group or even one-on-one. You got to figure out what you're going to do first, because generally there's going to be some sort of a sequence you're going to follow, and then enact it, get the student going on it, make sure that they understand that they can tell you back in their own words what they're doing and then what they've done and then what they plan to do the next time, right? So again, having them put it back in their own words is really important, because a lot of students who come in with writing difficulties also have reading difficulties. They don't understand perhaps the vocabulary in the prompt itself. And so you want to make sure at the very beginning that you've read through whatever it is they're working on and make sure they can tell you what it is they think they're supposed to be doing. And if you can see that there's an error in their thinking, then you're going to have to intervene and correct and say, well, I think this word means this. Like yesterday, I think I used the term analysis. A lot of people are asked to do a little analysis paper. And a lot of times freshmen come in and they don't know what an analysis of something is. They're used to just regurgitating information. And so they'll just recite the information, but they don't really think it through, and they're not very, they don't express an opinion or support an opinion in any way. They don't know how to do that. And maybe they've never heard the word analysis before, and that's just one little example. But make sure that they understand the terms that it is that they're being asked to work with. Okay, boom. Let's just zip through here. So I guess this is just a longer version of what I just said, but again, and I want to just check periodically to make sure they know what they're doing, and especially on Zoom when you're behind the screen, and if they don't choose to put their face up and it's just a black screen, it's really hard to know what's going on. So I encourage people from the very get-go to please just show your face, and you can work independently on your, typing something and still have your screen on. It just makes it a little more human, but I know that people initially have some reticence, so they prefer not to, but hopefully as they get comfortable with you, they'll be more likely to have their screen on. And I'd like for you to model that if at all possible. We've only had one tutor who had some real difficulty with that. And because it was difficult, she had permission not to have her screen on. But for the most part, I think it's really much more humanizing if you've got your screen on and they have a face to look at. So again, I really like it that you have your students participate in filling out your session summary and on the attendance forms, just because again, it's just another way of like giving them, their own ownership of what they did. This is what you worked on today. This is what you got done. This is what you're going to be doing next. Make sure that when they leave, they know where to find the resources they need, what comes next, and just remind them where they can contact you when. So. Okay, so then this is where we come to the role play part. And guess what? I have something other than yesterday, Monday, because Monday we didn't do something specific to our current situation, which is working with the same students from the same class, from the same instructor, right? So they all come with generally the same assignment. But I would like us to consider this, right? So when you think about different kinds of students that come in, so think about these, and we won't say that, we're gonna say they're all from the same class this time, okay? And that they're all gonna have a very similar assignment. So first of all, student one, first semester freshman, first generation college student, interested in history. And we're not gonna say what they're assigned because I've got these here, but there will be a thesis or two. The second one, second semester at RC, but repeating English 1A, so not successful the first time. A computer science major. And student three, a returning student, small children working part-time at a local business. You can see for 30 hours a week, a really busy person. Now in office tech, but it's also an English 1A. So before we try doing this as a role play, I want you to think about the strengths and challenges each one of these kind of students might bring into a small group. So that freshman student, first semester freshman, first generation college student interested in history. What do you think the challenges are going to be for that person? How are they going to feel about English 1A?
That's gonna be overwhelming. They might not have a support system at home. They might not know anything about college because their parents didn't go. So that would definitely be a challenge.
Yeah, that would be a challenge. Now they're interested in history. How could that possibly be a strength for them?
Well, we could focus like when the essay topics come up, we could like say, well, how can we like turn this into like something you are interested in? How can we focus that? So that could be it. This could also mean they have a 50 major. So you know, you could help them kind of explore if they want to be a history major.
And that, you know, stories reflect history, you know, that stories actually make up history. So there's lots that you can eventually work into. Okay, that's good. Okay, second semester student, repeating English 1A, computer science major. Okay, what's that these challenges? What are they gonna be like? You're going to tell me about this. You're a STEM kind of guy, right? So here you got a student, they're in their second semester and they're now having to repeat English 1A, right? So how are they gonna be feeling about themselves?
First, I guess, because it's not a class, it's very close to the major. And also just be discouraged because they already tried once and now they don't even want to try again because they have to.
Because it's a requirement,
So
those things.
it's just not very motivated.
Not very motivated, not very enthusiastic. I have a bit of a negative opinion about it since it didn't go well last time. But they're a computer science major, so what do we know about people who like computer science? What kind of learners and what kind of interests, what kind of student would they be?
So like for helping them to be like using, making things or trying to make it like in a way like they would do something for computer science, like.
Yeah, so that more, that more systematic step following kind of things using graphs and diagrams and stuff like that. Yeah. Good. Yeah. So if we could identify anything that's a strength, that's also very helpful. Okay, student number 3 is a returning student, and they have some serious challenges here. Monty, tell me about this. Okay, this student has 3 small kids that are working part-time a lot. They're hoping to get into finish an office tech kind of program, but they still got to pass English 1A. So what would you see as their strengths and their challenges here? Time would be a really big one. Yep. And as a challenge, how could you, as you look at that person, and they've chosen to be a returning student, and they've got these other two competing big deal time things. What can you maybe surmise for a person who might take that on? Okay, so you would be focusing on real time efficient strategies for them. Also, I think I would be recognizing the fact that this person has a lot of mettle, that there's some kind of inner strength there that they realize going back to school is a big deal and they're ready to commit to it despite these other really big old life responsibilities. So I would think that they'd probably be pretty motivated and pretty interested in, like you say, the time efficient strategies, and would probably end up being a big help to other students because they figured out some of these time efficient strategies. Everybody can use those. Okay, all right, so let's just pretend that we are these tutors or these students, and then who shall I pick to be the tutor? Oh, let me see. Hannah, I'm gonna let you be you're gonna be the 4 semesters at RC as a tutor, education major. Well, we know you're an English major, but an education sort of, right? Isn't that another thing you're considering to have alongside? Okay, so we're gonna expect this person, she's been around for a while, right? And so she basically gets what it is to help people with this topic. So let's see, I'm gonna give you student 3, so that'll be you, the returning student. I'm gonna give you student 2, the STEMmy person, the computer science person, and I'm gonna give you student 1. And so you'll be the first generation college student interested in history. Okay, now you each have a prompt from the same instructor, and this is at the beginning of the semester, and you've been asked to write a reflection. There's a lot of teachers who do this. They want to know about your culture, your literacy history, right? Like, how did you learn to read and write? So that's why we have that prompt in our little pre-write thingy at the beginning, because you just want to get people thinking about that topic, right? So here, Hannah, you've got your 4 people, and you're going to just start your session, and we're going to say this is like the 3rd week of school, and this is their first assignment, and you're going to figure out what they need, and they're going to share their assignment with you, okay? So you go for it, let's see what happens.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? Good. Yeah, I'm usually really short. Is it you guys? Okay. I don't know if you So what are we working on this week or today? Do we have any assignments? I think we're all in the same class.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go,
so
so
it's essay competition today. Yeah. Let's look at it.
I mean, you can. It's basically, I think it's like a 2-page paper, just writing about like what we learned about like reading and writing and stuff.
I'm not supposed to be able to read.
Probably not. Okay, allow me to decide. Write a 2-page paper describing your own experience of learning to read and write. Ooh, due at the end of the week. This person has a rough draft outline.
Okay. Does everybody want?
Okay, they all have slightly. This is what they are. This is what they need to have done to
Oh,
turn it
so
in.
we all need a rush draft.
But wait. Let hear from the other people next.
Oh, okay, well, what have you gotten done on this assignment?
So I have a lot of thoughts on what I want to do. I haven't really written anything down because, you know, I feel like I have a lot of experience like in high school and stuff. This is my first semester, you know, so I don't really have a lot of college experience, so I don't really know how to organize like my thoughts.
Okay, so we can start with you. We'll start on making an outline and kind of like organizing the thoughts.
Wait, hold a second. I want you to listen to everybody first,
Oh,
because
okay.
then I think what will happen is then this will work for everybody.
Okay,
Okay.
Matthew, what do you have done on this?
which before time has been.
And what is it your emphasis, your concern is?
Makes sense, make sure that the next one is great.
Okay, so I'm like a little bit Who are you?
Yeah, you're
Or
the expert.
you, I'm sorry, wrong person. What are your like concerns and or what have you started or your ideas?
Everything, because I tried last semester and I failed the class, but I'm not ready for this.
Well, that can be a little hard to like restart and I know it can be a little frustrating, but we can do it together. I promise.
Yeah, especially
Oh,
the
especially- So,
You go ahead.
what I would start with is I would start with doing an outline with everybody together and then talking to each one of you about your experiences and
So
emphasizing.
I'm
your
used to,
pieces.
I'm used to just jumping into it, like, what does an outline look like? Well, like, I'm not really sure, I'm usually just jumping.
Give me a second. This is what I would do for a student. Okay. Now fill in the blanks.
So what did you have written there?
Well, my 3-second outline
Uh-huh.
is I would do like the introduction and then your thesis. which
What's
is
a piece?
the main point of your essay, the very main point of your topic. And then your first body paragraph, and I would have them write their topic sentence after each one. And ideas and the bullet points and that. Okay, so that's what I would teach you if this is a real group.
And I'm gonna ask this person who needs to write a thesis statement to ask more about that. But I don't know.
Okay. How do I know what's the main idea of my people?
Well, since this paper is about reflecting on your own experience and history, think about something that maybe affected you in a big way. Maybe something you want to centralize all your, ideas on in this paper, and that could become. So I would help them with brainstorm. And then help them create this.
And what's a
brainstorm?
So, okay, so this is where you can do what she's talking about, and you can say, well, let's all brainstorm. Let's just all write down, let's just do a free write. How did I learn to read and write? What do I remember about reading and writing?
So,
Boom.
what I usually do to brainstorm is I just rewrite for like 5 minutes. And I don't stop writing no matter what. And I just think about the topic and I write whatever comes to my head.
Okay, so you can say, let's try that.
Let's try that.
Go. Okay, on go. And then guess what? Hannah's gonna work along with you. I'm gonna do mine too. Doing a little modeling. That's really good though, because if you find out at the beginning what they're all working on, and you can tell, okay, this person is like, I am good, it's not fun, and I've not done well at this before. And I have to do this dumb thing called a thesis, which I haven't figured out yet. And here's this person who's brand new, is completely overwhelmed. And then this person who's like on it already is like, I just want to make sure that I know what MLA is. What is MLA? So I think probably the best thing to do, since they all are working from the same prompt, is to start with the brainstorm and then and then break it apart after that. So you all brainstorm, then you read each other's brainstorms about how you learn to read and write. Okay, I'm being really linear here.
That seems like we want to work together.
Okay, that's all good. That's all good. But yeah, so there's lots of ways in, right? Okay, so if you all did that exercise and then you had, 4 or 5 sentences, oh, happy person, about learning to read and write, then from that, you could pick out the key ideas for each person that would become their thesis statement, right? So reading and writing was not so easy for me as a kid, but I do remember I enjoyed reading blah, blah, blah with my mother or something, or I didn't really enjoy reading and writing until 4th grade when I had a teacher who started us on the Magic School Bus, or, something, so that you pick out something from each of their stories that becomes the organizing feature, and then figuring out how to then just write about that, you being that free-writing kind of person. Okay, now just write about that. And once they've done that, you can go back through and edit it a bit more. But as for the person who's very MLA focused, What would you suggest to them? What kind of resources could you suggest for them?
Well, I would first suggest that they buy the and then I walk them through, like, I'll send out an NRA paper and then probably send them to the OWL or RDM's page.
Yeah, sure. The more you can refer to the Canvas page, the better. So just, you guys poking around what's on there. I mean, we have tons of videos.
I finished the MLA video. It's on the Microsoft section. So
Woot, woot, woot. So there you go, a little, and there may be something inside the course site of the instructor who has already given them that information. And maybe they haven't looked at it, or if they had, they still didn't understand it. So you could look at that together. Yeah, no, but I think, so you see, it's not a scary thing, right? There's no right or wrong way to do any of this. It's just more than anything, you have to kind of get a gauge on the personalities that you're working with and who's invested and who may not be so invested. But the thing is, it's all things we can learn how to do. We might not know how to do them now, not yet, but we will soon if we keep plugging away at it, right? When somebody says, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. Well, you don't know how to do it yet, right? So we're going to work on helping you figure that out so that we can slowly get some motivation built up, right? I've watched you work and I know that you're a very relaxed and, easygoing, and people appreciate that, and if you're too directive, sometimes that can turn people off. But it depends on the instructor too. There are some instructors, like Laura is a pro with Mr. Dominguez, and there's very prescribed order to things, and he wants them to learn this very prescribed order. So in order to be successful in his class, she has to take the students through that prescribed order of things. And it just depends on who your instructor is. And what we are trying to do is to help them navigate the instructor that they've been given with their 1A class, and to help them be successful. So like you are being assigned with Miss Levine, right? With you, who's been through Miss Levine for quite a good bit. So you know Miss Levine's style and her assignments, and you've actually lived right through it recently. So, and to the degree that you are now here. So, we'll get the skills built up, but the main thing is you understand the instructor and what's going to be expected to the students, and being able to put that in words that make sense to them. We try and keep our language as clear as possible, but sometimes there's just something about the way a person in the trenches does it that makes it more accessible, right? So that's a big deal part of it. So all right, well, I knew that was just, I know role playing drives everybody nuts, but I just wanted you to do the benefit of it for you to just kind of see. I think it's helpful to kind of get us going again, think about it. And again, here's another really cool thing that now that we have such a large library of recordings, for those of you who are new, Annie, it would be great if you just go back through your previously recorded sessions and pick out a few and share them with Caitlin so you can watch and see what it looks like. Last semester, we had the luxury with Jackie being able to actually work right alongside with Annalee for the first half of the semester, but we have not enough tutors this semester to do that. So I'm just having to plunge you in teams, and we'll take it as it comes. And if you need help, I'm here and I can sit in on the sessions too. So if you need help in managing stuff, I'm happy to do that. So just want to know that we're in it together. But the reason why you're on teams is because of the number of hours that each person has. And if everybody had 19 hours to give, well, great, but you don't. You're students, right? So you can't all do that. And instructors understand that. So we do gently remind them periodically that I'm a student and I'm only working this many hours. I'm doing as much as I can in the hours I'm allotted. And that's what it has to be, and then that also gives our instructors a little impetus to recommend people, right? So as we come across folks who are doing well and seeming to understand the content and getting along with their own work and keeping caught up, and they are people we keep our eyes peeled for, right? that may end up being folks who we end up enticing over here. So anyway, one of the things I wanted to show you before we left campus today was I wanted to walk over to the library and see the new space. Do you guys want to do that? And then on the way back, we could see if there's somebody in the math science building, so you could see their gorgeous slides. We can just lock the door here and then we can come back. So you can just leave your stuff here. Is that good? Yeah? Okay. Yesterday, we got to stand at the library door and they were nice enough to just let us in. It was a little bit earlier, but I think they're still there. On the very back end of this, these are things that are straight from the handbook, the things that we know we should do, and then the things that we shouldn't do. So again, I just, go ahead and reread them, be mindful, just want your sessions to keep going to full time and encourage as much participation as you can, as much conversation as you can, hopefully on topic conversation. So, yeah. All right, let's go for a walk.